This is some guy, Rob Russo, some leftist based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this.
Count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
32 long months. When will I be released from this prison?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
29 long months. When will I be released from this prison?
Two, check. Hello, two. Thank you to G Cluppy. Thank you, G Cluppy, for the 32 entire months of Tier 1. I gotta tell you, it feels It doesn't feel a day over 31 months when you think about that. Thanks, Sean, as well, for the 29 months of Tier 1 and for all the support, Sean. Interesting turn of phrase. Here. When will I... So I got two chatters here. I got G. Kleppy and Sean Meat saying, when will I be released from this prison? When will I? That's you asking that. You're wondering when you're going to be released from the prison. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. You're asking me when you will be released from the prison. Guess what? I don't know what to tell you. When you find an answer to this question, please let me know. Because like going on 3 years ago one day, I turned on my OBS and I turned on my camera and I turned on my microphone and I was like, hey, I can just try sitting down and talking into this microphone in front of this camera for a little while. That could be kind of fun. And then here I am, 3 years later, a grown adult man with like real responsibilities. And here I am still. I'm still here. I'm still here every fucking day. So please, when you find an answer to this question about when you're going to be released from the prison, please let me know. Because please let me know. Because I would be very interested to know the answer to that question as well. The Sisyphean task of providing us daycare. Oh, don't do that song. It's going to get stuck in my head. Please don't do the song that doesn't end thing. Bit. Thank you for the raid, by the way, Lodane. I hope the Lodane stream was good today. You have to pass it on to your son. Yeah. By the way, Lodane, I saw a bunch of people you got a lot of eyes on the YouTube thing that you were doing and the whole road trip that you went on. I think that's really cool. I saw people were like starting to follow the Lodane channel and tuning into those videos. I think that's fucking fantastic. Good for you. Keep going. Keep pushing. Keep pushing forward with that. Anyway, yeah, here I am. Almost 3 fucking years. Coming up on 3 years. I guess we still got the summer to go. We still got a ways to go, but some people think I'm the Fonzie of the Cindy channel. Waiting for the Lodane and Rob road trip. Honestly, like I genuinely do one day would love to travel, go on a big road trip and meet a bunch of people from this community, including Lodane and a number of other of you, and see what happens. I think that would be so fun to do one day. I would genuinely enjoy doing that, and I hope to one day do that. When will I be released from the prison? From the chat. Yeah, that's rich. That's really rich. I would love to come to NS as well at some point, Lair. The road trip will end at the compound, obviously. Obviously, yes. I'll cook you a lobster dinner. That sounds fantastic. I love lobster. So how's it going, everybody? How are we doing? Got a couple of good... I think I was happy with yesterday's stream. The conversation that we had. I think we can carry on a little bit of that stuff today. A couple other interesting things we can get into. I would encourage people to also check out the Insurgents podcast. Just came out. I just did a solo episode with Jordan last night. It was a really good conversation too, so I would recommend people check that out. So a number of cool things to talk about. I don't have anything to eat. I ate my lunch already. I made a little sandwich. Really into buying fresh mozzarella lately. Fresh mozzarella. And I made a very nice sandwich. Well, I can't remember the meat. Is it capicoli? Fuck, I don't even know what it is. That with some fresh mozzarella, some mayo and mustard, a little oil, salt and pepper. Gabagoo. Hey. Hey. With some Kalamata olives and oil with hard bread. There was no olives, but it was still very good. It was very satisfying. Very satisfying witch. That's what we're calling sandwiches nowadays. That's what all the cool people are saying. Hey, where's my witch? That's right. That's right, Sean. Make a note. Okay, good. So I don't know, like what, I don't know. That's all I have to report, really. That's all I have to report. My night was pretty low key. I was asleep pretty early last night, for once. Cucumber salad with cherry tomatoes and fresh mozz. That sounds good. That sounds good, Lodane. Is that with some kind of like a balsamic? Some kind of a balsamic and oil dressing? Yeah, that sounds like really good shit. I watched the Willy Wonka trailer and have incurred psychic damage. Is there a new trailer? Like the one with Timothée Chalamet? It is a little onion, a little vinaigrette if you're making. Sounds fantastic. Oh shit, I didn't see that. I didn't see that or the Napoleon trailer. Should we do a live trailer react before we get into any serious discourse or discussion? I didn't watch the Ridley Scott Napoleon trailer either. I like giving myself psychic damage. I like doing that. I'm on here every day. Napoleon fights the evil tanky Russians. Oh, great. Good. I wish Napoleon was more traditional, epic-y looking, but I'll be seeing that garbage opening day. Lovable underdog Napoleon. We're going to check that out. I want to check it out too. I'm not a huge Ridley Scott fan. Like, I love Alien. I love Blade Runner. I like a lot of his films, definitely from the past, but not someone that I have this, like, they're infallible kind of, like, relationship with, like a James Cameron. Guy on Blue Sky just asking questions and is not a trot, sounding more and more like Trotsky. News at 11. It's always a with that kind of stuff. What's up, Marty? It's always my I'm not a trot t-shirt is raising a lot of questions already answered by the shirt kind of a situation. Like we've seen with people in this chat. Of course I'm not a Trotskyist. It's just that and it's like, Sir. Come on. James Cameron, infallible. Piranha 2, greatest movie ever made. You know, I've never actually seen Piranha 2, which I don't think counts as a real James Cameron movie because of the way that I think he just like got put into this, directing this kind of low budget schlock thing that he was doing effects for, and in a kind of like sudden process, not something that he like wrote or planned out. And Terminator was really the first of the actual James Cameron movies. Although I haven't seen Piranha 2, but I'm willing to bet that he did a fucking great job with the tools that he had at his disposal. How do we go from the Gene Wilder to Chalamet? You know, like I actually like. I don't mind Timothée Chalamet at all. I think he's got a kind of charisma. I like him as an actor. I like him as Paul in Dune. I would like to see him in more stuff. It's more just this whole thing of like, here's the reboot of, you know, Wonka or whatever. Wonka's early years or The Wizard of Oz's early years or like whoever these, it's like, you know, and you're going to like going back to like Gene Wilder and that kind of performance. I'm just kind of tired of that genre. You know, I think it's just an annoying genre. I don't hate him as an actor at all, though. Like, I'm not saying this trailer does this, but does this Wonka trailer, G-Cluppy, if you're still there, just answer this one question about the Wonka trailer. Does it have, like, a slowed down version of a modern day pop song? Or one of those kind of things, when you take the old song and then, or even like World of Imagination with some kind of like epic orchestration or something like that. It doesn't? Okay. At least it didn't do that. They're making about 1 billion movies based on baby toys. That'll probably make Marvel movies seem sophisticated, so buckle up, bucko. I did see that, how like Barbie, which seems kind of interesting. Like we talked about it. I kind of want to see Barbie still. But it seems like it's the opening salvo of something that's even kind of darker. You know, all the planned, the Mattel shared universe. Okay, let's see this. Let's see this. We're doing a live trailer react. We're doing react content. The Oompa Loompas fly now. They fly now. World of pure imagination with like the low synth boom. Like to make it this darker, like minor key. That's what I would do if I was doing the music for this. To do the actual annoying trope that I just described. Let's see.
Traveling the world, perfecting my craft. You see, I'm something of a magician, inventor, and chocolate maker. So quiet up and listen down. Nope, scratch that, reverse it.
Mr. Wonka, I can see you're a man of great ingenuity.
What are you doing?
I'm making chocolate, of course. How do you like it? Dark, white, nutty, absolutely insane.
Many people have come here to sell chocolate. They've all been crushed by the chocolate cartel. You can't get a shop without selling chocolate, and you can't sell chocolate without a shop.
No daydreaming.
What are we gonna do, Willie?
Huh.
Huh?
Huh.
A double huh?
Get the pencil and paper.
Uh-huh.
I got an idea. I know things haven't been easy for you. They're gonna get better.
You promise?
I pinky promise. That's the most solemn vow there is.
Where do we start?
A good chocolate chip is simple.
Where's this? It's just
Weird.
What's happening? Who wants a chocolate that makes it fly?
Let's find out, shall we?
Who's for a hoverjob? Nothing to see here. Just a small group of people defying the laws of gravity.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Gallery Gourmet, my name is Willy Wonka.
He's good. Too good.
Pretty sure I've gained about 150 pounds in a lifetime.
Fucking called it. Did I call that or what, folks? Do you hear that? The World of Pure Imagination with the epic score behind it. Come on. Come on. They fly now.
My name is Willy Wonka.
He's good. Too good.
Pretty sure I've gained about 150 pounds in the last 2 weeks.
You could change her life, Mr. Wonka. Change all their lives.
Run away!
Every good thing in this world started with a dream. So you hold on to yours.
Here we go, Mama. Mark my words. This is gonna be the greatest chocolate shop the world has ever seen. So you're the funny little man who's been following me.
I will have you know that I am a perfectly respectable size for an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
Allow me to refresh your memory.
Oh, I don't think I want to hear that.
Too late. I've started dancing now. Once we've started, we can't stop.
we do a little bit love Hugh Grant though. That was kind of enjoyable. That was kind of enjoyable. That last bit. I don't know. Yeah, I think the definitely the Harry Potter connections are there. It's like they're trying to turn it into a kind of like Harry Potter, sort of give you the feeling of that universe without being actually part of it. That seems to be the way they're going. I don't know. The Wonka cinematic universe. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I mean, Chalamet seems fine, but like, that's not the kind of performance that I think I'm interested in seeing from him. That kind of like, whoa, hey, I'm gonna go make some chocolate. That kind of like energetic. Like, I think he can, as you see in the Dune movies, and I think as you've seen in some of his other work, he is capable of like going to some like more intense or interesting places, you know? That's in this kind of like big tentpole kind of kids movie. I don't know. That's not, I understand just taking a big sack of money from a big movie studio. I mean, listen, if someone comes to me and says, hey, do you want to do this really ridiculous thing and try and do the best you can with it? Here's like a whole bunch of money. I'd probably say, you know what? I'll give it some consideration. So I don't blame it. I don't blame him for doing it, but yeah, that's not really the performance that I'm interested in seeing from Chalamet. You want to do this really ridiculous Super Mario movie? Yeah, I mean, hey, the Super Mario movie wasn't even that bad. I kind of enjoyed that as well. There's not a lot of things that I wouldn't do for a big sack of money. I mean, there is some things. I'm not saying I would do anything, but like, in terms of having like creative, artistic integrity, I mean, it would be very difficult for me to take the high road on that or pretty much anything else. There's lots of things that I wouldn't do as well, just to you know, don't alarm anybody here. I'm not going to sell out my entire beliefs or anything. Talking purely creative integrity, artistic integrity. I do hate that Hugh Grant was the 3 seconds of enjoyable here. That was kind of enjoyable. I can't deny that. That's why you stream Soros money. I would be happy to. I mean, listen, I wouldn't be happy to get Soros money. I don't think Soros sponsors this stream. I mean, I say a lot of things. I even go after Soros himself. I say a lot of things that, you know, Soros is not interested in promoting at all. Is he the anonymous gifter? I like to think it's someone in the Chinese government. That's my ideal. Oh, Donald Trump is in this movie. Holy crap. Because this guy's freaking orange. Kind of like Donald Trump. He's orange too. He's orange. Okay, what's the other one? What's the other trailer we wanted to react to? Napoleon. That was indeed a real trailer. Okay, here's the Napoleon trailer. This is Ridley Scott, Joaquin Phoenix. Napoleon. Did not watch this yesterday.
No doubt you'll send the chaos in the streets. We must make an example, or France will fall.
What would you do if this assignment of defense was transferred to you?
I promise you brilliant successes.
You know, I gotta say, right off the bat, I like the outright refusal by the actors or by Ridley Scott to pretend that like the actors are doing like if he's like, hello, I'm bonjour, I'm Napoleon or something like that. If they're doing these bad accents, it was the same with The Last Duel. Like that's one thing, I didn't see that whole movie, but that was one thing that I really liked about The Last Duel. It's just like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and they're not trying to do accents. They're not trying to do French accents. They're just like, yeah, they're French. Fuck off. Like, just watch it. In fact, Ridley Scott gave a really funny interview about The Last Duel where he talked about that. He's just like, it's a movie. Like, they're French. Just shut the fuck up. Just watch it. I like that. Makes me want to Barry Lyndon. Yeah, same with me as well. That's kind of a Kubrick blind spot for me. I've seen it once, but I would really like to revisit it. One of Kubrick's most beautiful movies by far. Anyway. Let's move on with this. I like the total refusal to do any kind of accents.
Everyone around is...
Oh, it's Napoleon is doing the meme.
This is my uniform. I led the French victory at Toulon.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Has the course of my life just changed? Napoleon.
I'm destined for greatness. But those in power will only see me as a sword.
Yeah.
I suggest
they did the modern song thing in this one.
King. Shall we vote?
This vermin has held the world hostage with his egotism and his lack of simple good manners.
You think you're great? You are just a tiny little brute that is nothing without me.
All of Europe is uniting forces against me.
What's the outcome of this if you don't succeed?
Your Majesty, we are discovered.
Good.
Guys! It's a trap!
I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake.
Same.
I simply never do.
Yeah, I'll probably go see that garbage.
You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Boner parts.
Boner parts. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. In Search of Slack. Thank you for the 20 months. Tier 1. Very close. Almost so close you can taste it. In Search of Slack. To the 24-month, highly elite, highly exclusive, shimmering golden TRRS 2-year sub badge. Fun fact, there's not a single woman talking in Master and Commander. And I'm against that, personally. I gotta say, it is an enjoyable film, but I think that's one of the things that holds it back from really being even better. Personally, if you ask me, and that's my only stance on that. Anyways, that was fun, reacting to some trailers. This looks good. I don't know, this looks pretty cool. You know, I'd like... Even though I don't always like Ridley Scott, like as we know, we don't need to relitigate my feelings on Prometheus. I don't think we need to relitigate any of that. He does visually know how to like put some pretty great looking shit on the screen, and that's one thing that you can never take away from Ridley Scott. Even Prometheus, which I despised, looks fantastic. It absolutely looked fantastic. And this look like visually, this looks pretty good as well. I like the cast; seems pretty good. I like the complete refusal to do accents. They should have had Margot Robbie's Barbie appear in Master and Commander. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, listen, Master and Commander, it's a movie about guys being dudes, all right? And there's nothing wrong with that. There isn't. It's one of the main things that movie is about guys being dudes. And no, if we want to see a movie about girls doing stuff and hanging out, there's lots of movies like that, and we can and should watch those movies. I agree. I absolutely agree. Master and Commander is a movie about dudes rocking. It's about friendship. It's about platonic friendship between men. And that's a non-toxic relationship that men do need to understand and explore more. We need to know how to talk to each other and relate to one another and care about one another. None of this like stoic, like, I'm Mr. like, keep everything to myself. I can't be friends with another man. That's weird. That makes me feel weird and uncomfortable. No. We should be able to go hang out with our best pal and go on little adventures with one another. And it's normal and healthy to do that, which is something that Master and Commander explores. It's so sad in Master and Commander when I can't remember Paul Bettany's character's name. Is it Maturin? Is that him? The doctor? When they're about to they promise that he's going to go explore that island in like Galapagos, and he gets his little like exploration outfit all on. He's all ready to go with his little cages and stuff, and then because of whatever their mission, he has to be like, no, sorry, we can't stop. And he's all like sad and disappointed, and he gets mad at Russell Crowe for not letting him go on his little exploring adventure. It's so sad. He's all ready to go on his exploration. He's in his outfit and everything. Great flick. This is cinema. Are there any other trailers we need to look at? The world of pure imagination. You know, I didn't see the new trailer to Killers of the Flower Moon. Let's look at that. I'm really looking forward to this one. Can you find the wolves in this picture? Really looking forward to this.
You know, you got nice color skin. What color would you say that is?
My color.
The Osage. They have the worst land possible. But they outsmarted everybody. The land had oil on it. Black gold. Money flows freely here now.
I do love that money, sir.
This wealth should come to us. Their time is over. It's just going to be another tragedy.
When this money started coming, we should have known it came with something else. They're like buzzards circling our people. We're still warriors.
I ought to kill these white men who killed my family. I need you here.
I am right here.
You've got to take back control of your home.
I was sent down from Washington, D.C. to see about these murders.
See, what about them?
See who's doing it.
Expecting a miracle to make all this go away. You know they don't happen anymore.
Cool.
See who's doing it.
Really looking forward to that one. I think I preferred the original trailer that I saw for that. This makes it look a little bit more Hollywood, I think, which I guess I understand why they got to try to market it that way. But I think it looks really great. And I really do trust Marty Scorsese to tell that story in a way that, like, makes sense and is respectful and is like an honest portrayal of the kind of original sin of America. I would like to think so, anyways. I really like that first trailer, though. It made it seem a little bit more dark and, like, you know, it kind of had that, like, yeah, that early America kind of Cormac McCarthy stoicism. Can you spot the wolves in this picture? Yeah, I really liked that. That really stuck in my head after. Yeah, the first trailer looked too much like There Will Be Blood and people know. I mean, like, I don't know if it looked like that to me, but this one does seem like making more of an effort to, like, show people what the actual movie's about. Also excited about Oppenheimer. I'm interested in seeing it. Like, I think Christopher Nolan's someone that, like, I used to really like, and I think have kind of, like, reevaluated my assessment of over the years. I think what's the criticism that I saw people were making, that, like, he makes, like, movies for dumb guys that think they're smart, or dumb people that think they're smart, or something like that. And I think you could make that criticism, but he is also still an expert filmmaker, and still one of the last kind of major blockbuster filmmakers with this kind of old school sensibility, filmmaking sensibility, and his use of, like, IMAX and different experimenting with, like, the screen formats and stuff like that, and film formats, I think has been really interesting. So I'm not expecting Oppenheimer to have really interesting or insightful politics, but I still think he's someone that can really make a beautiful looking movie, and it looks like a great cast, and will probably still be worth a watch. I didn't see all of Tenet. I tapped out of Tenet after about 45 minutes, and I have conflicting reports about whether I should try and finish that. I know there are some Tenet heads out there, like, I do know that. It wasn't really doing much for me. Tenet. I don't know if I need to give it a revisit or whatever, but Tenet, and from what I watched of it, seemed to be like, here's a bunch of, like, cool ideas and situations, and the idea of having, like, a coherent story or characters that you care about was just like, we're gonna not worry about that in this. Here's just, like, a bunch of cool looking stuff, And it's just, we're going to give you a bunch of cool looking stuff over and over and over again. And the idea that any of these things should be like connected in a meaningful way, or that they're having characters that like you care about what happens to them, was like, let's not worry about any of that stuff. Should probably give it a rewatch though. Interstellar, I remember being really excited for and not really enjoying. I read the original script for Interstellar, which was by Jonathan Nolan and the physicist Kip Thorne, I think his name is, and really liked the original script. And then when I saw the film in the theater, because I know Christopher Nolan had changed a lot of things, and pretty much every major change from the script I didn't really like at all. My hearing's kind of fucked, and I heard the audio mixing in Tenet was bad on purpose. I might check it out with subtitles. Well, that's been a consistent thing with Nolan, hasn't it? The whole thing with The Dark Knight Rises, when that came out, and like with the Bane voice, and no one knew what the fuck Bane was saying. And they had to like fix some of the audio mixing in post so you could actually like hear what the character is saying. He has a weird commitment to having his movies sound like shit. I don't know why exactly that is. And Lunin said something interesting too. He said, I've never found the format shit interesting. My favorite movies can be watched on VHS and they lose nothing. Yeah, I mean, like some of my favorite movies I discovered on VHS, like Aliens and T2 and all these things. Although I did see T2 in the theater. So that's ultimately what makes a good movie, is story and characters that you connect to, and like some kind of catharsis and visual effects and things like that. But I do enjoy also in the theater experimenting with the format. I remember seeing Dark Knight in the theater, even though you could watch Dark Knight on DVD or even VHS, and it's still really effective. But in the theater, when those big IMAX shots would come in and just fill up the whole screen, it's like a punch in the gut almost. Like I really did enjoy that. So it's both. But yeah, talking about Nolan, Dark Knight was a movie that, because of my kind of conflicted feelings on Nolan, I thought had probably aged badly, but I did rewatch it a couple months ago and I was like, damn, this still fucking kicks ass. I gotta say, this is still fucking great stuff. Still really like Memento and The Prestige as well. Love both of those. Someone was saying online, talking about Insomnia, which I haven't seen Insomnia since I remember I saw it in the theater when it came out in like 2003 or whatever. I would like to give that a rewatch though as well. Insomnia with Robin Williams and Al Pacino. Robin Williams was very good in that. It was always cool when he would do these kind of like laid back, subdued, creepy characters. That was always really fun to see him do that kind of stuff. Although I don't believe I've seen 1 Hour Photo. Frank Drescher. I don't believe I've seen that one. I remember him doing exactly one of those kinds of characters in that, but I've never actually seen it. Chalamet does not bring weight to any story. He mostly dilutes it. I don't know. I think he's got talent and charisma. I think it just totally depends on the script and the director. I think he was good casting in Dune. I liked him in Dune. Something Jim Carrey could never pull off, because Carrey has pulled off the quiet, subdued character before. The best Jim Carrey has ever been was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I think he's fantastic in that movie, but every other time that he's tried to do something like serious, it's always fallen flat. Like he tried, or like spooky or whatever. Like he did that Number 23 movie, and he's tried to do that kind of thing a couple times, and it never works. But it really worked in that one, though. And like he's good in Truman Show, but that's not really like a serious dramatic performance. He's good in, I guess he's good in Man on the Moon, but again, he's still being Jim Carrey in that. He's a comic and a big kind of performance, you know. He was great as Dr. Egghead in the Sonic movie. That was the big dramatic turn, definitely. The big dramatic turn from him, obviously. Yeah, he was good in that. And that's if you want to do something fun with your movie, Jim Carrey's a great guy to throw in there for one of those kind of roles. Watched Falling Down again the other day. I haven't seen that one in a long time. It would probably be interesting to watch, to analyze from kind of like a modern day perspective, or even from like a sort of Marxist perspective, understanding like the 90s and end of history and white male rage and all this stuff. I'm sure there's some really interesting viewpoints you could take from that. His character's a trash person. Yeah, he's like one of those characters that's become like idolized by people for like all of the entirely wrong reasons. Michael Douglas is great though. I rewatched The Game a couple weeks ago and fuck, I love that movie. The Game is so great. It's so just entertaining every time. The way it ratchets up the tension as well. It's so fun. Yeah, The Game is great. Awesome score. Sean Penn, really good in that as well. I guess Falling Down would be big with the 4chan types, probably, yeah. It's like a men going their own way kind of situation. Who directed that one? That wasn't Ridley Scott, was it? Joel Schumacher. It's an interesting Joel Schumacher movie, considering he did a lot of like action-y schlock. Yeah, I know The Game was David Fincher, yeah. Yeah, Joel Schumacher, the Batman Forever and Batman and Robin director. We love movies, don't we, folks? We love them. We love them. What's the next TRRS movie night? I really enjoy these TRRS movie nights. I really, really do. I'm happy we've been able to do them like more regularly lately. We got Adaptation coming up on July 19th. Adaptation, one of my absolute favorite flicks. I love Adaptation so much. Looking forward to that. Wednesday, July 19th. Wednesday, August 2nd, we got The Abyss. That's going to be fantastic. Haven't rewatched that in a long time. Talking about James Cameron, my boy, my guy. We got August 16th, Burn After Reading, which is also totally essential. One of my favorite Coen Brothers movies. Coen Brothers are so daring, the way that they put out these big, Oscar-recognized, huge critical successes, and twice they followed up these kind of films with like these kind of wacky, weird comedies, which is such a ballsy thing to do, you know? After Fargo, their follow-up to Fargo was Big Lebowski, and their follow-up to No Country for Old Men is Burn After Reading. Those are really like bold choices, big, bold, creative choices. And Burn After Reading, I think, is the best movie about like the American like intelligence community by far, and it's so fun with some fantastic performances. Here's my list as well. I got some lists for some other movies to add on here. Okay? Burn After Reading is August 16th. Here's my list. So Burn After Reading is already on there. True Romance. I really want... That's an absolutely a Rob Cannon movie. I love True Romance. Like we're talking about Ridley Scott. True Romance, obviously the god Tony Scott. And I really love in True Romance the combination of early Tarantino, because I think it's the first script that Tarantino ever sold, with like the Tony Scott really stylistic direction and visual aspect, with one of the very best casts ever in any movie. True Romance. It's just fucking fantastic, the cast in this movie, and I love it so much. Gonna throw that on there. Hans Zimmer, amazing score as well. Yeah. I got 2 early 2000s Tom Cruise movies that I wanted to put on as well to the list, which is Minority Report and Collateral. Which is amazing because like both of those movies came like right at the height of like Tom Cruise's like meltdown, like career-threatening meltdown. And those are 2 of his very best films and very best performances. Collateral is so fucking great. It's maybe the best Tom Cruise movie, which is saying a lot because he's made a lot of good flicks. Another one I wanted to throw on was 1997's Dark City. Dark City. Which is directed by Alex Proyas, who was the director of The Crow. Dark City's on there? I don't see it in like the events. It's on the list. It's on the list. Okay. And I wanted to watch Talk Radio. I've been doing the Bogosian monologue from Talk Radio. I think that would be a fun one to watch with the community as well. Considering like what the show is and everything like that. I think that could be fun. Awesome performance by Eric Bogosian in that. I also wanted to put on Terminator 1 and 2 onto the list, which I don't think we've watched as a community, and just 2 absolutely essential Rob Cannon movies. If we're really getting crazy, we could do a double feature, a Terminator double feature. I don't know if that's too outrageous, like maybe on a Saturday or something. Maybe on a Saturday we could do a Terminator double feature at some point, but I think those are going to have to be on there as well. How do I partake in these movie nights? Well, anyone that's interested in watching these TRRS movie nights, which are always, again, just like so fun, whether it's a movie from the Rob Cannon or not, or a film that like I haven't ever seen before, like Network. We watched Network last week and it was fantastic. Always so fun. Top tier banter in the chat while the movie's on. Always just so enjoyable. Like watching White Men Can't Jump in the Discord server the other day was genuinely one of the most fun times that I've had in like a while. Like I genuinely was just having a fantastic time. I love that movie so much, and I loved like seeing people's reactions to it. I just had a fucking great time watching it. So if you want to watch these movie nights, join the Discord server. If you're not in the Discord server, you got to join that. And that goes to anyone that's not in there, whether you're a community regular or whether you're a lurker or a new viewer, if you brought in by the Twitch algorithm or whatever. Even for no other reason than just the movie nights. There's plenty of other great shit going on in the Discord server, all kinds of interesting discussion, and our theory nights led by a community member, Red Scary, the VIP, as we know, the VIP of the channel. Lots of great stuff going on in the Discord server, but even just for the movie nights, join the Discord. And people are like, well, I'm too old. I don't know how to use Discord. Look, I'm fucking 40 years old, okay? You think I knew how to use Discord when I started using it? No, I didn't. And I felt weird and alienated from it. But now it's been some time and I use it and it's actually a very cool thing. And I'm happy I did. And you will be happy you did as well if you take the plunge and join the Discord server. Once you accept your official roles or whatever you have to do to get into the server, you can go check out the events, and all the movie nights are in the events, and you can find out when they are, and you can, sign up for those, and we all watch the movies together in the channel on the Discord server, and it's fantastic. Okay? So that's my pitch. That's my pitch for you to join the Discord server and join those movie nights because they're so great. They really are. And that's my tentative list for other films that I want to add to the rotation. The interface for both Twitch and Discord is very busy and disorientating at first. Your brain has to adapt to filter out the noise and be able to use them. Absolutely. I mean, I talk about Discord, but Twitch as well. When I first started using it, was very alienating to me, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. When I first started watching Twitch streams, I was like, what the fuck is this? What is all this stuff going on the screen at the same time? What is this shit? But look at me. Here I am. An expert Twitch and Discord power user. I still haven't figured out Discord. You can do it. You can do it, Beanie. You can do it. It's not that hard. Just click the little link. Click the little link in the chat. And everything will be fine. Everything will be okay. Is RoboCop, unless we already did RoboCop. We did both RoboCop and Total Recall. Which was both very, very enjoyable. We did Total Recall, right? I'm not imagining that. Right? I think we did. Total Recall is a top 5 film for me. It's definitely top 10 for me. I don't know if I would say top 5, but it's top 10 for me, absolutely. Fucking love Total Recall. Did you know they spelt it Gatorade rather than Gatorade with an I, because calling it aid would have required more testing and approvals from the FDA? I was not aware of that. I was not aware of that, Jay. I mean, so I can't imagine the FDA would have that much to say about it. I mean, it's just flavored sugar water, which America is fucking founded on flavored sugar water. Why would they want to call it aid? Well, because I think originally it was marketed, as many like beverages and products was marketed as like a health, like a athlete thing, you know? Do you know why they call it Gatorade? Because of the Florida Gators, right? Isn't that it? That's where it was developed to be like a fast rehydration athlete thing. It's developed at Florida, yeah. It's just Pedialyte with sugar, exactly, yeah. Sounds like an urban myth. Plenty of products have the name aid without being an aid, and aid is in the line of lemonade, etc. That's true as well, Crowd Babes. Maybe we've debunked this. Maybe we've debunked this this rumor. Okay, but why do they call him Ravishing Rob Rousseau? I mean, I think that speaks for itself. We don't even need to investigate that. I mean, You know? Oh. It's nice to have I have a bit more time to do the stream lately. It doesn't feel quite as rushed. Where's my... You found the wolves in this picture? The Natural, that's right, Lodane. I really would like to create a new Rob Rousseau character in any wrestling game. That was always my favorite thing about those wrestling games. The crowd, this crowd needs to keep the noise down while the Ravishing One takes off this glorious robe. Exactly. But you see, Motor City sweat hogs.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
The Montreal Menace ravishing Rob Rousseau.
I like that. I like that, Brian. Thank you for the 200 friend coin. The Montreal Menace. Ravishing Rob Rousseau. I like that because that's two different nicknames tacked on. That's the kind of extravagance that I think I'm looking for. You know? You know what's better than one nickname? Two nicknames. It is long for a Chiron. That's right. That's true. That's very true. Ravishing some ramen. I mean, I do, yeah, that's true. I love ramen. It's one of my favorite things.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Low-fat cottage cheese is underrated.
Thank you, Ben, for the 200 friend coin. I'm not so sure I would agree with that. If I'm going to get cottage cheese, I'm going full fat. In fact, I think most low-fat foods are, like, not appealing to me. But you know what? If you enjoy it, I support it. I support it. I'm glad you're enjoying your low-fat cottage cheese. Rude was too good on the mic. Even though those early DX days, he would come out and just generate so much heat. Rude was one of those guys that I really think, like, if you could rebook the Hogan era, like, they would always put Hogan against these
count
like,
on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk
big monster characters, and I think there's a number of guys that I think could have had great, like, world title heel runs, like Kurt Hennig, like Rick Rude. There's a couple more guys. Roddy Piper probably would have been good for, like, a world title, a heel run. I would have loved to see any of those guys get pushed to that main event spot in that period in the late 80s and early 90s when they were, like, you know, high mid-card heels, like Intercontinental Champion types. But I think all three of those guys would have been fucking fantastic getting a run with the world title, a heel run. And even if you have Hogan running through them at WrestleMania or whatever, I think that would have been great. Like, instead they have Hogan against Sergeant Slaughter, you know? They followed up Hogan and Warrior in WrestleMania 6 with Hogan versus Iraqi sympathizing Sergeant Slaughter in WrestleMania 7. It's like, come on. Come on, Vince. Come on, Vince. I'm going to do the news soon, though, Dane. I got time. I got another, like, 2 hours. I got plenty of time to talk about this stuff. Did you see the Pat Soak wrestling promo? No, I didn't. Bam Bam Bigelow would have been another. I mean, even if you have to throw Hogan against a big monstrous-looking guy, Bam Bam would have been a fantastic choice. He was one of the best big men to ever do it. What is this wrestling promo? Should we look at this? I'm curious about this. What is this? What is this? We talking Haas here? Who are we talking about? I know Haas can have like a wrestling promo style, and that's one of the things whenever I see him doing that kind of thing, even though I find him to be a weird and very alienating person and a reactionary, there are sometimes when I see him like getting on one of those rants where I'm like, I at least see the appeal here. Like I understand why some people enjoy this, you know? That's as far as I'm willing to go here. You know, I don't agree with the man's viewpoints on pretty much anything. You know, like I said, he is a reactionary. I think he's leading people down this like dark path of fascism, really using kind of left-wing language sometimes a little bit in order to do so, which I think is gross. When I see him getting off on those rants, though, I'm kind of like, all right, I get why people like this at least. It turns out you can have passion and populism and also not betray the people. That's right. That's right. I came late, so maybe discussed already. Did you see Olbermann poop his diaper about Cornel West being correct on Russia? No, and we are going to talk about that. That's part of my news segment, okay? That's part of my news segment. Rob comes out as Haas fan due to years of wrestling indoctrination. Far from it. Far from it. Although I did, because I'm a gregarious and generous person and benevolent, I did defend Haas when he was being like removed from Twitch for like by these like Soros-backed disinformation experts, you know. I did on this platform defend him despite the grotesque things that he says often. Because I do actually have principles that sometimes I act on regardless of how much I like or agree with the person that's being subjected to these things. Oh man, what? Oh my goodness, what did you just send me here, Sinchao? What is this? What is this? Oh no. Oh no. This is from Liam, MAGA communist. Hope of the Quantum Leap with Liam on YouTube. MAGA because I love America. Communist because I love humanity. North Korea respecter. And obviously on that subject, that's something we can agree with. But it's in and of itself, it's self-contradictory to say I'm a North Korea respecter and then wrap yourself in the American flag. These are two, you can't do both of these things at once. These are mutually exclusive. Literally wrapping your body in the American flag and saying I'm a North Korea respecter. These things are mutually exclusive. Yeah, I wonder let's go ask the North Koreans what they think about the American flag. Let's go ask people in North Korea how they feel about the American flag and the people that wrap themselves in it and self-describe as American patriots. Let's go ask some people in DPRK what they think about that. Anyway. So this is some debate that Liam was doing here. Alpha male, MAGA communist, quote, LARP versus armchair PSL, CPUSA, soy, CIA-lism. That's the caption. Are the Pat Sox doing weird shit again? Yes, they are. Hulk Hogan wrapped himself in the flag and then he betrayed his fans and joined the New World Order. And I agree. And that's what I think some of these folks should be doing. All right, let's see this. Let's see what this guy has to say.
You leftoids, you challenge us as LARPers, but now we're challenging you as men. While you PSL and CPUSA armchair socialists sit and do nothing, we're out every day talking to the American working class and stopping the danger of nuclear war. We'll be streaming in 15 minutes. I'm here with my muscles, thing 1, thing 2. If you don't come on the stream, you're sacrificing your manhood.
This cannot be real. But come on. This is not real. No. I mean, obviously it's tongue in cheek. Like, just to take Liam's side here, like, when these guys are in there, obviously it's being a little bit tongue in cheek. Like, come on. But like, oh my goodness. I used to have sleepovers with my friends in 9th grade too. Oh my God. The energy is dead on. The thing is, the energy is not dead on for like a wrestling promo. The energy is dead on for the wrestling promos that you're pretending to do with your weird friends when you're like a preteen, like you're having a sleepover. That's the energy. I won't believe this till he puts someone wearing a CPUSA t-shirt through a table in a backyard. I agree. I want to see this get to the next level. Yeah, you don't want to wake up the parents. That's why he's not going to the really high volumes when you get to the passionate promo. He doesn't want to wake up mom and dad. You don't want that. Man, I got to give them, I don't know if they're, I really think it's at least partially tongue in cheek. I don't know if humor is like what they're really going for, but it was very funny. I got to say, this is very entertaining. But it's funny too because he describes it. He's talking about alpha male MAGA communist quote unquote LARP, but like obviously this is a LARP. Like this couldn't be more of a LARP. I think these guys are probably onto something, that in order for the left to succeed in America, the aesthetics of patriotism is an asset. It's the question of who you want to include in the left, though. I think. Do the victims of imperialism and colonization count as being the left? Do indigenous people are indigenous people part of the left? If you're wrapping yourself in the flag to try and appeal to people that have these patriotic sensibilities, patriotic people in the heart of the empire, aren't you just alienating more people that find the symbol of the American flag and people that wrap themselves in it grotesque? That's the question. And I understand why, like, you need to ease some people into the America bad, death to America camp or whatever. And you can't just like go and, if you're at a union protest or something and someone's waving around an American flag, I don't think people should just go and fucking spit in their face and call them a colonizer and burn the flag in front of them. I think that is alienating and probably not a great strategy. But the wrapping yourself in the flag thing is never going to be appealing. It's not, and even the very people that it's meant to appeal to aren't going to fucking buy it. You can wrap yourself in the flag and try and sell communism to like fucking, brainwashed, patriotic, lumpen proletariat types in America. They're not going to buy it, though. They're not interested in what you're selling, even if you're humiliating yourself by wrapping in the flag like that. There's something to be said for not leading. This is what I mean, Matt. There's something to be said for not leading with talk about the crimes of empire or anything other than just basic restraint is counterproductive. Yeah, I agree with that. And we should talk about that. But yeah, you can lead people down that path, without wrapping yourself in the fucking flag. It's like when Democrats try to hype their military service. Exactly. It's like the people that you're trying to appeal to do not care. They're not interested in what you're selling. They're not. Like we talked about with the trucker convoy or the January 6th stuff or whatever, that these like big reactionary movements that these people think you need to like appeal to, the anti-vax movement or whatever. Again, go wrap yourself in the American flag or the Canadian flag and go out and talk to these truckers about communism, or these truckers, these like petit bourgeois small business tyrants that drive Ford F-150s and can afford to take 6 weeks off work to go hang out in Ottawa. Go and talk to them about socialism and wrap yourself in the flag and talk about what a patriot you are, and then talk to them about why we need to have socialism in America or Canada and see what they say. That's always been my position on this. I'd be fascinated to hear about this. A lot of these people are like, we're out there every day talking to people. I don't think they are. I think they're talking to people online. I think they're talking to people in YouTube chats or whatever. I don't think they're out there talking to the average Fox News watching American patriot. I really don't. And if they do go and talk to those people about communism and try and wrap themselves in this patriotic motif while selling them these left-wing ideas, I would be very interested to hear what the response is. Talk to other working class people that don't fit a redneck stereotype. Not that there aren't based rednecks. Yeah, of course. Going on Truth Social was the perfect example. I mean, it was the whole thing the other day where Trump was saying we're against communism. Communism, it's bad, folks. Some of our citizens are communists. We're gonna have to go after them. And you have these guys like fucking Haas bending over backwards to explain how he doesn't actually mean that. And when the MAGA fans and Trump supporters learn about real communism and not just this imagined boogeyman that they've made up, then they'll see the light. And it's like, do you fucking hear yourself? Really? Do you really think that? Do you really think that? You know, it's just absurd, this idea. Jesus. Yeah, he wants to throw all socialists and communists out of the USA. He literally said so in his speech. That's what I mean. And these same people were sharing that speech and being like, oh, no, they don't understand that when we bring them true communism, they're going to like it. It's like, okay. All right. The logic of chasing the most reactionary chud core at the expense of regular service workers with genuine revolutionary potential is ridiculous. Yes, it is ridiculous. It's extremely ridiculous. And here, if I were to say one thing about that, again, I don't think any of these people are getting on board this project. But if you want to appeal to MAGA types, if that's really something that someone's interested in, I don't really have much interest in that. But rather than wrapping myself in the symbols of patriotism or the American flag, the Canadian flag, or whatever, things that you can talk about that were the media, corporate media, and talk about the ways that the things that they're very right to be mistrustful of, big pharma, the media, and all these things, but then actually try to provide an analysis that explains why these things are bad. You know, that can maybe make them think, maybe that kind of makes sense, and then maybe be interested in some more things that you want to say. Not just it's not just wrapping yourself in a fucking flag and being like, I love cookouts and America and fireworks and guns, yeah. And I'm also a communist. They're just like, I hate you. I want to kill you. That's what these people say. Yeah, and I think Bernie did provide a good blueprint for that. Absolutely. Talk about people's material conditions, right? Whatever their background is. And I don't have a lot of confidence that these kind of MAGA types, the most hardcore reactionaries in America, a very reactionary country, I don't really think they can be appealed to. But yeah, if you do speak to people's material conditions, then you can appeal to these kinds of working class communities. That's not what these people are doing, though. Yeah, and East Palestine is a good example. Reference the derailment and how both parties contributed to the deregulation that harmed a small town. Yeah, or imperialism, people that are against these kind of weird libertarians that are against the military or Iraq or is selling weapons to Ukraine, and talk about how both parties are complicit in that, you know? And how right-wing people really want to use that kind of language to ultimately take away their future even more. A very reactionary country. I resent that. I'll be campaigning relentlessly against you and your show. Well, believe me, Canada is extremely reactionary as well. That's been my main thing that I've learned that has gone against my kind of understanding that I had in my upbringing in this country. It's an extremely reactionary and racist country, which is that's the dirty secret of what Canada is about. All right. I don't think your sub counter moved when the last give sub went through. You're right, Frank. And you know what? I get what you were doing right now, which was a subtle reminder to say thank you to you, Frank Drescher. Did I say thank you? Now I don't remember, but in case I didn't, Frank, thank you for the gifted sub. No, Frank, no, it's okay. It's okay. I deserve to be called out if I ever let one of those slide, or if I forget to say thank you. Call me out, okay? Don't be shy. Frank with the 5D chess moves. Cost of living in Canada is high indeed. Yes, and as these people would tell us to go and talk to these like trucker convoy people, you can talk to working class people in this country about that. And not just talk about the idea that Pierre Poilievre is going to like talk about these kitchen table issues, like the fucking Conservative Party is going to make any of these economic issues better, despite just couching their tired program of austerity and tax cuts, which has not delivered a higher quality of life or a lower cost of living for anybody for decades and decades and decades, as long as it's been tried, and spell that out to people. Spell that out. Yeah, the Prime Minister, Trudeau. Yeah, I agree. He's done all kinds of horrible things, and like housing prices and inflation and cost of living and all these things. But then talk about how both parties are part of our ruling class that maintains that status quo. And that voting for the Conservative Party, if you hate Trudeau, is not actually going to solve any of these issues that you care about, or that you seem to care about. Yes, I am suggesting the Conservatives are disingenuous. That's right. I mean, Pierre Poilievre, what a fucking joke that this guy thinks that he's saying anything, or that there's, and even our media has been it's been absolutely pathetic in its refusal to acknowledge that, like, oh, he's saying all these important, he's talking to average voters, he's positioning himself as some fucking outsider. He's the farthest thing from an outsider that you could possibly be. He's a lifelong political operative and conservative movement figure. Fuck off being this some kind of like maverick or outsider, Pierre Poilievre. What an absolute farce to even imagine, to even anyone that would ever believe that. And then he's saying all these like, oh yeah, I'm speaking to the cost of living and the housing prices. Yeah, fuck off. Like, he's a landlord. Do you think Pierre Poilievre wants housing prices to go down? If housing prices go down in Canada, which is something, I mean, he's always talking about, people can't move out of their parents' house, no one can afford a home. If housing prices go down in this country, people like Pierre Poilievre lose money there, so it's not going to be happening under Pierre Poilievre or anyone else. Half of the people in our fucking parliament are landlords. They don't want housing prices to go down. They want them to keep going up, because that's how they make money, which should be illegal, by the way. That should be illegal. That should be corruption. And if I was in charge, those people would be in jail. If you're an elected official and a landlord and you're making policy that increases housing prices, jail. Jail. Open and shut case. Open and shut case. Corruption. I think I'm going to run for political office in Canada on that platform and high-speed rail. Those are the two planks. I don't even listen, here's my patriotic socialism. I wouldn't even mention the socialism thing. You know from watching this channel what my political beliefs are. I'll run for political office in Canada. I won't even mention the word socialism. I'm going to run on two things: jailing half of our political class for corruption and building a high-speed rail line between Quebec City and Windsor, Ontario. That's my platform. How about that? How about that? Who says no? You don't think that's going to have a constituency? Yeah, and the West Coast needs high-speed rail as well. But I mean, just to start, just to get the ball rolling on it, you know? GMO Radio says, trying to confirm if this is real. Very sloppy is true. Is this a real image, chat? Shit. Chad, what's your viewpoint? Is this a real image? GMO Radio is sharing this image in the chat. I can't confirm whether this is real or not. What's your stance, chat? Looks real to me as well. I mean, he's holding the corn dog. You got a good mustard dip on there. Verret has confirmed it. Routine parliamentary behavior, exactly. It's not AI, exactly. He's got all his fingers there. This has been fact-checked by real Canadian patriots. True. Nobody does mustard like that. I don't know. I think if you have like a little thing of mustard and you dip it. I've had a pogo or a corn dog like that before. So what's the difference between a corn dog and a pogo? Isn't a pogo just a kind of corn dog it's like a brand of corn dog? How much is the taxpayer being charged for that corn dog? That's a great question. That is a great question. What the fuck is a pogo? A pogo is just a brand of frozen corn dogs. You get it at the grocery store. You throw it in the microwave, or I guess the deep fryer now, which would be a way better way to have one of those. I used to really like pogos. Was a go-to like after school snack for me. Coming home from school, you have heat up some pogos in the freezer. Solid. Hanging out with all my shitty friends on the back porch at my mom's house. Pogo is a monopoly on corn dogs in Canada. If you're Canadian and you want a corn dog, you're getting a pogo. I guess in terms of like frozen brands, like I was saying before, you can get a great fresh corn dog in this neighborhood that I'm in right now. A Korean corn dog, and it's one of the most wonderful things you can imagine. It's fucking fantastic. I had a corn dog for dinner last night. It was only okay. Was that like a frozen corn dog situation, or from a cart or something? I was just about to say Korean corn dogs. 10,000 sandwiches. They're so good. I was at the ballpark. Oh, cool. Nice. Seeing the old Seattle Mariners drop another one. I guess. I didn't check the score. I didn't see what happened, but... I was seeing Vlad win the home run derby. I did not pay attention to that at all yesterday. I did not know that was even going on. I was in bed very early last night. Gochujang sauce and kimchi on it. Well, there's a number of different toppings you can get. I'm doing hot dog talk again now. I was on some serious political rants here. I was unveiling my political program that I intend to run for office on. Now I'm talking dogs again. But yes, it's deep fried with different things. It's like you can have rice, or there's a Doritos one. It's like Doritos crust on the corn dog with the sausage and cheese inside and the different toppings. Ooh, mama. Ooh, mama. It's really something else. I would like to not derail so you don't even have to acknowledge it, but Toxicity came onto my playlist yesterday and I may have to reconsider my previous slander. It just fucking rocks, Marty. It does. You mean the song or the album? The whole album is just fucking phenomenal. The drummer's really good. Yeah. Anyway, I always loved the prison song on that one. Got it, Marty. Check out the prison song. I listened to System unironically still I'm that old. Me too. That album just fucking slaps. That's what they say about albums, right? They're trying to build a prison. They're trying to build a prison. They're trying to build a prison for you and me to live in. Who's slapping? I don't know. Listen to their cover of Berlin's Metro. That's the best System of a Down song. I don't know if I've heard that one. Anyway, going back to that's it. That's my political program. If I'm going to run for office, I didn't notice the stains. GMO Radio. I didn't notice the stains. He's got the mustard stains on the mouth and some mustard stains on the shirt as well. Wow. I did not even notice that. That's a whole new wrinkle to this image that I had not noticed. That's how you know it's real, exactly. No one is that good at Photoshop. I'm sorry. No one is that good. When the Legion showed up, we fought. Most tribes did. Hangdogs hung out longer than most, broke us by throwing our dogs on the fire. Rob, Legion ending in NV confirmed. Is that like a New Vegas thing? A Fallout New Vegas thing? I've never played that game. Sloppy Pee-Pee. That's what he's called. Anyway, going back to it, that's my political program. Jailing half of our political class, high-speed rail. That's how I will appeal to the masses. And corn dogs for all. A corn dog in every air fryer. Those three things. Come on. That would be appealing to people. You copied Trump's homework. You went to lock her up and build the wall. Well, it's not just one person that I want to lock up. I want to lock up a lot of people, you know, and it's not discriminating based on like who's a woman or who's not a woman or, you know, whoever. It's not based in identity. It's corruption. Like I was talking about, it's a simple ask. It's a simple program. I want to start actually investigating and punishing corruption in this country. Political corruption. Whether that's Doug Ford, whether that's Chrystia Freeland, our whole fucking grotesque ruling class, political class in this country. Whoever you are, we're gonna investigate corruption and we're gonna go after you. And if you're a fucking public official, elected official, and you're also a landlord, or you're double dealing like Doug Ford with all his fucking developer buddies, we're going to go after you. That's a crime. That's a crime. That's illegal. And if it's not, we're going to make sure that it is. Is that so bad? Is that so authoritarian to say that crime should be like punished? People could be like, these liberals try to be tough on crime, and all that means is funneling more and more billions of dollars to cops to beat the shit out of poor people. That's what tough on crime means. Well, I can be tough on crime, and that means going after the real crime, like corruption. Or if you're a multi-billion-dollar grocery store scion and you're raising grocery prices so working class people can't afford to buy eggs and milk and working class people are going hungry, so you can buy another fucking mansion and make even more money, even more billions of dollars, guess what? That's a crime. That's corruption, baby. We're coming after you. You're sounding a lot like Putin. You know, that's it. That's my big authoritarianism that I want to promote. Just that we have actual rules and laws that our elected officials and powerful capitalists have to abide by. If that's so authoritarian, well, I guess that I just love authoritarianism. For real though, Russia's learning a lot from Xi anti-corruption campaign. Exactly, and Xi, like President Xi right now, is the model for engaging in this exact kind of program that I'm talking about. Like, I'm not joking. I know some people might think I'm doing like a bit or something, but I'm genuinely serious that I would like to see this kind of happen in this country. COVID also made me authoritarian. Yeah, like personal freedom. Yeah, public health trumps your personal freedom. And as much as a lot of these folks have fucking complained endlessly about their precious personal freedom being ignored and are still whining and complaining to this day, the state bowed down to them and catered to everything that they wanted and agreed with them on all these points. You know, other people have personal freedom as well to not want to live in a society where there's rampant, out of control pandemics that get worse because you refuse to fucking stop going to fucking Kelsey's or whatever it is. You know, people have freedom to not like go out in public and worry that they're being infected with a potentially deadly or disabling disease. Anti-corruption, high-speed rail, and renewable energy. President Xi, my people yearn for freedom, and Canada being part of the Belt and Road Initiative. That's one thing I would have to hold people's hands a little bit more. You know, that would maybe not be a campaign thing for me, but that would be one thing that would definitely be once elected, I would be supporting. Definitely, Canada joining the Belt and Road Initiative. I would have to walk people gently down that path, I think, a little bit, but that would genuinely, though, be another part of this, a plank of this program, though. Increasing rather than decreasing our diplomatic and economic and cultural ties with China. That would be my third or my maybe fourth policy proposal. Freedom to get long COVID, brother. That's right. Yeah, I know it's so radical. To not want to chain ourselves to the dying U.S. empire. I know it's a big, crazy, radical idea to want to get away from that extremely exploitative relationship and not actually steer the world towards like existential global conflict that will claim billions of lives. I know that's a big controversial position. To not tie ourselves to America as it swirls the fucking toilet of history. But that's also something that I happen to believe in. With high-speed rail, you're going to take my freedom to complain in traffic jams. I mean, that's the funniest thing about this whole 15-minute cities things, is that people are literally unironically saying this. They're literally unironically saying this. It's my God-given right to sit in traffic for 8 hours a day. It's like the same people that complain about traffic all the time, and when you build another bike lane, they complain about how it's going to lead to more traffic. And then you're like, well, what about high-speed rail and public transit? How about having your amenities in the grocery store closer to where you live? How about that? And then you don't have to sit in your car. And they're like, fuck you, I hate you. Ah! God, these people. These people drive me crazy. And these are the folks that the patriotic socialists want us to wrap ourselves in the flag to appeal to. These very people. Yeah, no thank you. No fucking thank you. How do I complain about not finding parking? Exactly. Yeah. The LaRouchites are still around. They're not going away anytime soon. Unfortunately. And that's a good point, Velocirampage. You say one Canadian issue I've heard a lot about is that there's a lot of foreign-owned real estate, but people only get bent out of shape when the foreign capital is Chinese. Exactly. I mean, that's just our obsession with foreign-owned real estate is really like a sort of like publicly acceptable form of xenophobia. There's a lot of publicly acceptable forms of xenophobia in this country, but that's one of the forms that it takes. Like the reason that our housing market is so out of control has nothing to do with foreign-owned housing, and has everything to do with the commodification of housing. You know, if you're not solving that, if you're not understanding that people have a right to have shelter and approaching the issue from that perspective, then it's like you're not actually dealing with the issue. Like I said, none of our politicians that are passing these kinds of laws about foreign-owned real estate, they're all real estate owners themselves and landlords. They don't want the prices to go down. They want them to keep going up because they profit from that. If anything, they want foreign investors out of the market so more homegrown real estate investors can commodify the housing market and profit from it. You know? They don't care actually about lowering housing prices, and focusing on foreign-owned real estate is not going to accomplish that. Yeah, we can't address the financialized rentier economy, for sure. Yeah. Subversive History pointed out something amazing the other day about the life people lead when they go to college. One of the things they usually traditionally get is living in the model of a walkable city. I mean, it's all the same people. The hilarious thing is there's literally, if you look at the Venn diagram, it's just a full circle of the people that are like complaining about the 15-minute city gulag and like the we must return, and showing like an image of some like old city square with the church and where you had the community and the schools and all the places where people worked all in the same place. It's the same people. It's the same people that are doing that. We must return from their like horrible McMansion cardboard monstrosity in this ugly concrete covered suburban sprawl. Imagine making your religion oil consumption. It's fucking grim. What a grim country. What a grim situation that is. I'm really getting off some quality rants here today. I gotta clip some of this shit. What's funny is here in the UK, the end game of the rentier economy, the rising interest rates have been hitting house prices because everything in the UK has been put in train to line go up. So now they're freaking out. Yeah, well, they're caught in a prison of their own design. These exact people, right? And they can't, because they have zero class analysis and zero social solidarity. They don't understand what the actual solution, you know? They don't understand the solutions to these issues. Because their right to earn personal profit is the one that supersedes everyone else's rights to live in a functioning society. So they're endorsing policies that they are crushing themselves, you know, and they have no way out of it. They're trying to build a prison. That's what they're trying to do. The walkable Snowpiercer train. That's good. That's very good. Well, listen, folks, I'm just going to pivot to talking about the news in just a moment. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. We're talking about politics and that kind of stuff, so I don't feel like we've gotten too far away from that. I do want to talk more about this Ukraine stuff and Cornel West's tweet and take a look at some of this NAFO summit footage to laugh at that. I will just remind everyone, before I continue, I'm going on 2 hours here of the stream, that if you enjoy TRRS and you enjoy tuning into this program every day and you enjoy the community and the discourse and the commentary, if you appreciate the work that I do here on twitch.tv/Rob Rousseau, please, if you can, support TRRS by subscribing. It is $5 per month to subscribe to TRRS. It makes a huge difference. It really helps me keep this content on the air. It supports this community.
Why not?
And you then join the community and become part of a wonderful, dynamic group of folks that have found each other through this channel. and it's certainly going to make a life-changing impact on you. Thank you very much, Moss, for the 28 months tier 1. Very much appreciate all your contributions to the channel. Moss, thank you for that. And yeah, if anyone else can, please subscribe to TRRS. I don't know what was going on yesterday. I had a really successful day yesterday, which I was really overwhelmed with how incredible that was. But you know what? It's the next day, and like Sisyphus himself, as always, I got to let that fucking boulder roll all the way back down to the bottom of the hill, and here I am, got to build up from scratch every day, regardless of how good the previous day was. I got to go right back to zero. You can count on good old Rob. And thank you. I can count on, obviously, good old Sunny Sola as well. Thank you, Sunny Sola, for the 2 gifted subs. Very kind of you. Does anyone else that is watching want to support TRRS with a sub or a gifted sub before I pivot back to doing the news? Thank you, Max L49, or just Max, I imagine. Thank you very much, Max, for the 2 gifted subs as well. Mocasino says, "You can count on Rob is the most laid-back sales pitch."
To talk you through all
and
this.
I really do try to balance the fact that I do have to do this every day with also not being a crack in the whip or being a dick about it. I just remind people that I do show up every day to do this stream. It is work to do. It's the time out of my day. I take a long time to plan out things that I'm going to do, interviews and different things. I'm here yapping away for 3-4 hours a day every day, and it is work. So, and Twitch doesn't actually pay me a salary for that. Ideally, that's what I would kind of prefer, that I just got paid a salary to do this and I didn't have to rely on you. Unfortunately, that's not the way this works. I do indeed have to rely on the viewers and the listeners of this show, and I really, really appreciate all the support that I get shown by the very, very generous members of this community. Thank you to, as well, Anonymous Gifter. Thank you, Anonymous Gifter, our wonderful Anonymous Gifter. Thank you for the gifted sub as well. We do have a hype train close, folks, as well. We do have a hype train close. Another gifted sub or a donation, a friend coin donation, could initiate a hype train. I will just take a few minutes to try and continue to make the number go up before I pivot to talking about NAFO and Cornel West and the stuff. Got another hour and a half or so to do that, so plenty of time. But does any generous chatter want to gift a sub right now? Your gifted sub right now could kick off another TRRS hype train. One brave hero, just like the citizens of North Korea, DPRK, get out there and push the trains themselves, as we know, as we've been informed.
We simply
you yourself
use the computer to mark up the size of the
could
account.
do that right now and
Number
manually
go
push
where?
the hype train. Useless. Thank you very much. Useless. Very kind of you. Thank you for the 500 friend coin. Really, really appreciate that, useless teammate. Thank you. So now we do have this hype train going, folks. So does anyone else? And I know, again, if you're watching this show because you want to get interesting news, analysis, or commentary, I get it that this is not exactly the most entertaining part. I understand that. The easiest way to get right back into doing the news and talking about the things that we care about and we're passionate about is by making the little number go up, which is what I got to do here each and every day. As much as I like to think of myself as like a news commentator or analyst or journalist or whatever it is, and maybe I am those things, I don't know. I will leave that for others to decide themselves. My main thing, my actual job is
talk you through all this.
Twitch sub salesman. Like, that's really what my actual career is. If you take away all the actual like content of like what I'm talking about on here, my actual job is to be a Twitch subscription salesperson. Which is why I have to take a few moments every single day to try and do a little business. And thank you, GMO Radio. Thank you, GMO Radio, for the gifted sub to official now friend of the stream, Kim Jong-un official. And you know it's the official account because it says official right there in the title. I'm a submonger. That's right, Red Wizard. That's exactly what I am. And I think if you want to succeed on Twitch or any of these social streaming platforms, you do have to kind of like level with yourself about what that is, and also level with your audience about it. You know, I try to like be open and honest with people that watch the show. That's the dynamic That's the only thing. That's the
You
only
can
reason
count
that
on
this
me
show
and have good
exists
old
is if
Rob
that
to,
dynamic
talk you through all
continues
this.
to
Bob the Builder.
progress. Bob the Builder. Thank you, OnlyFacts Sam. Thank you for the 17 months. Tier 1. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. So we're 16% of the way through this hype train now, folks. And just a few generous chatters. Just a few generous chatters or 5 sub-gifters could get us to a point where we could stop doing this segment and we could move back into doing the kind of commentary and analysis that you've come to know and love. I would say just two extremely generous and heroic 5 sub-gifters could get us out of this segment, and I could move on to talking about the news and doing the same commentary and analysis that people have come to expect on this program. Contact the Chinese embassy.
Become an elite member of the Friendship
Oh
Triangle.
my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious. Contact the Chinese embassy and they'll sort you out. In all honesty, I genuinely do
An
think
elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
I genuinely do think the work that I do on here is worth a measly couple grand a year, you know? If you're someone of these foreign states with deep pockets, I absolutely do think the work that I do on here is worth a pittance of a few grand a year. I mean, that's nothing for some of these places. Anyway, oh my goodness. Thank you, Ashrand. Really, really appreciate the 5 gifted subs. Thank you, Ashrand. So, so kind of you. Thank you, including a gift sub to the notorious ROB. The notorious ROB, one of the recipients of those gift subs. Thank you very much, Ashrand. And thanks to you, OnlyFacts Sam, as well. OnlyFacts Sam, or just Sam, I guess. Thank you, Sam, for the 5 gifted subs as well. Very, very kind of you. Thank you for that. I really, really appreciate it.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
President Xi personally handed me $5 and said, "Give this to Rib." At least I assume that's what he said. I don't speak Chinese yet.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Quaker Oat Sky. Thank you very much. 21 months of Tier 1 from Quaker Oat Sky. Very much appreciate that. Getting very close yourself, Quaker Oat Sky, to the highly elite, highly exclusive 24-month golden, shimmering golden TRRS 2-year sub badge. And if anyone's watching and you're a new community member or you're not familiar with the channel and you're seeing like, how can I have a golden sub badge, an elite exclusive golden 2-year sub badge? I'm not even a member of the community. Well, you know, it starts with one thing. It starts with one choice. It's just making a choice that you want to change your life. And you don't get to 24 months and you don't get to the highly elite, highly exclusive TRRS golden sub badge by not subscribing. You get it by making a choice to change your life and to take that first step by subscribing to the channel and starting with that first month. That's your first step towards greatness. And even if you are new to the community, you might be saying like, how do I become an elite member? You know, I can join the community, but how do I become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle system? That's Twitch's only 2-dimensional triangle-shaped friendship access and trickle-down clout tiered reward system. You might be asking yourself, it must be a huge commitment. It must be both a huge commitment in both time and like material means to become an elite member of such a vital community. It's got to be a huge commitment. It's not. It's actually really easy. It's really simple. You can literally be a non-subbed lurker right now, and with a mere gift of 5 gifted subs, with a mere gift of 5 gifted subs, that instantly puts you right into that elite tier. The elite, you bypass the base level. You bypass the chaos zone. And nothing against people in the chaos zone or the base level either. Some people thrive in that kind of climate, that kind of context. But with a mere sub of a 5 gift sub batch, I'm losing my train of thought. With a mere 5 gifted subs, you will instantly rocket right up to that elite tier. Some Farquad, you could, exactly. You could instantly rocket right up to that elite tier of the friendship triangle system. It's actually really easy. It's actually really easy. And many people in this community can testify to the benefits that they've experienced from joining this community. I'm not even joking about that. I'm actually being totally serious. I'm not doing a bit. Many people could testify to the life-changing experiences they have had joining this community. And we're now very close to a level 5 of this hype trade, folks. Bumping into stuff here. We're close to level 5. Probably another 2 gifted subs could put us into level 5 of this hype train. And really, really seriously, just one extremely generous hero could not only get very close to the sub goal with a extremely generous gift of 10 subs,
use the computer to mark up the size
but also
of the
trigger a
account.
highly elite and exclusive
I'm a member and
alert.
it immediately changed my life. The trickling friendship is as seen on TV.
Thank you, Useless, for another 500 friend coin. Thank you, Useless. I appreciate that. The trickling friendship. That language is a little problematic, I would say. A little problematic. We're one gifted sub away, folks, from level 5. We're one gifted sub away. So tantalizingly close. But you know what? Fuck Hype Train at the same time. At the same time, who cares? You know? We don't need a Hype Train. We don't need Twitch to tell us when we can have hype or not have hype. You know? We don't need that. Okay. Folks, thank you so much for the support. Thank you for supporting TRRS. I love you. I appreciate you. You're the reason this show exists. You. Yes, you. Thank you. I really appreciate you. Personally. We can go back to talking about the news now in just 1 minute. I'm going to take a short break
to talk you through
for just like a moment, just to get something to drink.
TRRS Sankara.
I got to get something to drink. I've been yapping away. I might have an orange too. How about that? Make it an orange. And thank you to Pennsylvanian Sankara. That's a great name. Thank you, Pennsylvanian Sankara, for the 4 months tier 1. Very much appreciated. Thank you for that. So very quick break. Very quick break. 4 minutes tops. Take a short break. I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about Cornel West, the NAFO summit, and some of this stuff. It's going to be more great discussion and commentary in just a minute. So don't go anywhere, please. I'm just going to be just a moment. You know, you can hang out for a sec. I will be back, and we'll have more great discussion and commentary. Thanks again for supporting TRRS, folks, and I will see you in just a few minutes. Hello, too. See, I told you it wasn't going to be a long time, right? I told you it wasn't going to be a long time. It was just a few moments. It's turned into quite a nice, beautiful, sunny day here in Montreal. It was very rainy and cloudy in the morning, and it's just gorgeous outside right now. And not as oppressively hot as it has been in recent days. So I just took like a little 2 minutes just to go and soak up some sun outside there, which is nice. It was very nice. Rob never lies. That's right, useless. It's never happened, and it's not going to start now. You know what? I like this hey what's up thing, because I can start the stream with a hey what's up, and then we can talk about stuff, and I don't need to change it to like a group chat or anything like that. I find it's more conversational. Which is funny, because when I started doing the show like 3 years ago, I started with hey what's up, and I've been doing hello for the last, this is kind of inside baseball-y talk right now, but I've been doing hello for the last 2 years, and now I think I'm going back. I like it. I like the hey what's up segment. It's working for me. I'm going to eat orange slices as if it's like I'm at soccer practice or something. Cutting up a pogo. No. Thanks for the orange, Mom. Always count on Mom. Give me some nice orange slices at soccer practice. Do they have pogo bites? They do have little, I don't know if that's what the official name of the product is, but they do have little guys, little pogos. My kids are bigger fans than the corn dog bites than the stick ones. Interesting. My kid won't eat them. I can't get him to eat a hot dog with anything. He won't eat it with a bun. He won't eat it with mustard or anything like that. I keep trying to get him to see, like, if maybe now he's gotten old enough, maybe he'll start having it like a normal way with like the bun and the mustard and stuff. Nope. He's not interested in it. He wants a plain hot dog. One plain hot dog, please. That's what he says. I don't get it personally. I don't know why he's like that, but you know, I've learned that you can't just bang your head against the wall when it comes to this kind of thing and hope for a different result. There's just no point. There's just no point. Even when I told myself, like before having kids, I was like, no kid of mine is going to be a picky eater. You know, I will simply use my parenting skills to just make them eat stuff that they don't want to. Well, guess what? That's not how it works. That's not what happens in the real world. In the real world, it's just like, you want to eat nuggets 5 days a week? All right, I guess so. I don't really like it. I don't approve, but fuck it. If that's the only thing you eat, I guess that's what we're going to do. You know? That's not how it works in the real world. Okay. Let's look at this Cornel West post. And yeah, despite my initial trepidation about this whole Cornel West presidential run and his association with these exact kind of, it's a good segue actually. his association with these exact kind of like patriotic socialist weirdos, and kind of weird libertarians, I thought was a big misstep. Now that he seems to have realized that he doesn't really gain anything with that connection, and he's going to be part of the I guess he's going to use the Green Party electoral infrastructure to mount this campaign. And I got to say, I think his voice is really vital to have out there in this moment. You know, and now that he's kind of corrected that initial misstep, I'm actually pretty happy that he's out there making these arguments, and it's making all the worst fucking libs imaginable really mad, and that's a good sign that he should be continuing to do it. Maybe I should try to get Cornel West on this show for real now. I kind of joked about it before, but now I think for real, maybe it would be a good idea. And here's the frustrating thing about this tweet as well, which is that we're going to read the tweet here, but like what Cornel West is kind of articulating here in this tweet, I know it's become very controversial in our society and very radical, but like this is just a standard left-wing opinion. Like the idea that I think it says a lot about the how much off the fucking path that we've gone as a movement, that this qualifies as being like even interesting or radical in any way. Like this should be just could do without the criminal part. Well, even that, he's like throwing a fucking bone to the people to that are really against Russia and against the equation. Like fuck, against the invasion. You know what I mean? Like that makes it even less controversial. And they still obviously don't get upset about it, or they don't agree with it, regardless of him kind of trying to you know, acknowledge them and their ideas about this. But this should be just a basic standard left-wing position. Like if there was actually like a progressive left, like in the Democratic Party, in the United States government, they should have been out. This should have been the stance from day one, you know, and no one has done it. Maybe there's been a few people that have pushed for more diplomacy. I saw Ilhan Omar was like pushing back against selling cluster bombs to Ukraine, which is like, I guess that's better than nothing. You know, it's still it was appreciated that she took that stance. But this is like the fact that there's literally not one person in the U.S. government, in the Democratic movement. There's people in the conservative movement that are saying this kind of thing completely disingenuously. Not one person in the sort of liberal progressive wing, including Bernie Sanders, not one person in the liberal progressive wing has taken this stance when it comes to Ukraine. And that I think is ridiculous. What Cornel West is saying here should just be a basic standard left-wing position. And it shows again how far off course we've gone when this is the reaction that this kind of a thing gets. No, I didn't see him on BPM. I don't actually know what that is. No, that's not what it is. It's let's just, I mean, we can give this the title because this is kind of like what the discourse is about. Here's what Cornel West says. He says, "Let us not be deceived. NATO is an expanding let's just go through this line by line. NATO is an expanding instrument of US global power. True. No argument there. NATO is an expanding instrument of U.S. global power that provoked Russia into a criminal invasion and occupation of Ukraine." So again, he's doing the same thing that I've done on this program. He's acknowledging that the invasion is bad and that we should be against that, but just pointing out that NATO was responsible for provoking it, which should not be controversial in any way. It should not be controversial in any way to talk about the role that NATO played in provoking the invasion of Ukraine. He says this proxy war, and it is a proxy war, obviously, between the American Empire and the Russian Federation could lead us to World War III. I mean, I think that's true if they don't stop the escalation. If they corner Putin to the point where he feels like he has to act and drastically escalate this thing, it could absolutely lead to World War III. We must stop the war and war crimes, including cluster bombs used by all parties, and embark on diplomatic talks that should lead to a just peace. Like, as people are pointing out, like, this is not a radical statement at all. There's nothing about this statement that's radical in any way. It's actually very balanced and nuanced, even more so than I think some people in this community would like. Like, this is just a baseline statement. As the great W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in 1945, I seem to see outlined a third world war based on the suppression of Asia and the strangling of Russia. The Democratic Party is a party of war in Wall Street, targeting Russia and China. True. I mean, that's just completely non-controversial. Absolutely true. Putin will never negotiate. He's a Putler. Despite the fact that he literally, like, say what you want about Putin. And yeah, he's Putin bad. I agree. Couldn't agree more. Putin, the evil, bad Putler that these people have built up in their minds as being this, like, dictatorial boogeyman, did in fact, who they say would never negotiate, did in fact negotiate. For the last 10 years, when there was negotiations. There was the Minsk agreements in the 2010s, which, as I've talked about over and over again, people like Angela Merkel and the people involved in the Minsk agreements have agreed where they never had any intention of following through on, and was just a stopgap time-saving measure so they could continue to pump arms into the country. All the way up to 2021, they were negotiating. Say what you want about Russia. It's not socialist. It's reactionary. It's some kind of gangster state, kleptocracy, chauvinist, whatever. Okay, whatever you want to say. I will probably agree with you. The fact is, they did in fact negotiate over and over and over and over and over again, and said repeatedly over and over and over again, stop doing what you're doing. It's a red line. Stop doing this, or we're going to invade Ukraine, or there's going to be consequences. They did say that repeatedly. They were very clear about it. And what did we do? We kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until the invasion happened. You know, that's, people don't want to acknowledge this, but that's how things played out. That's what happened. He says, let us save our democracy and world by dismantling U.S. militarism at home, as in cop cities, and abroad, as Martin Luther King Jr. painfully reminding us. So yeah, I appreciate the adding some historical gravity to this, referencing Du Bois and referencing King very accurately. This should not be controversial. This should not be a controversial statement in any way. Yeah, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. It's such a childish foreign policy. Why did they say that? What is the threat? Well, the threat is that the CIA was arming and funding militias of violent extremists directly on their border, and taking Ukraine from a neutral state that was formerly an ally, converting it through their own machinations, converting it into a pro-Western, pro-America, pro-EU, pro-NATO corrupt government, an outpost for the Western imperialism, with which they take over the Russian base in Crimea. They're arming and training militias right on the border. That's the threat. That's the threat, is that they don't want CIA-trained militias operating directly on their border, and they don't want nuclear weapons parked in their former greatest ally pointed directly at their nation. That's what the threat is. The Nazis also invaded Russia through Ukraine. That's right. If your line is at all in support of NATO, you're no leftist, not in any sense. I mean, like I've been saying for 2 years, Brian, it's just a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer. It used to not really be controversial to be on the left and be like, of course I don't support NATO. But now it is controversial because Putin bad. Oh man, Dr. Dude, we have to watch that. The flub from the State Department spokesperson yesterday tells you all you need to know about how most people in the U.S. feel or are told to feel about the war. We can watch that next because that was fantastic. That was just like the most chef's kiss clip that I have ever seen about anyone talking about this conflict. And then look at the comments. From Rob Thornton. Who's that? I don't know. NATO is there to protect Europe from Russia, and for good reason. Cosmic Dancer says nobody provoked Russia. It's the second time they've annexed Ukrainian land in 8 years. The mistake was appeasement then, not delayed action now. And again, annexing Ukrainian land. The Crimea is not Ukrainian land. I mean, that's just... And you don't take my word for it. Take the word for it of the people that actually live there. The people that live there. Don't listen to me about this. Listen to them. You know, they have no interest in being part of this, like, Ukrainian nationalist project. And for many of the Russian-speaking and ethnically Russian people that live in that region, they're literally not included in this project by the people that, like, are running this project. This is funny too, because this comic here from this NAFO, so a NAFO avatar, Jerry Monson. What a cursed bio that is. American flag and Ukraine flag, bonking Vatniks since 2014. The CIA does not exist. Hashtag NAFO. And they say this thing, why did you invade Ukraine? Is it NATO expansion, woke culture, US meddling? Just tell us, please. And the person with the Russian flag is saying, we're waging a genocidal conquest to end the Ukrainian state. And the person says, it's the NATO expansion, isn't it? See, that doesn't even make sense because that's not something that Russia has said. In fact, they've explicitly stated that this is not a genocidal conquest to end the Ukrainian state. And they've said it's because of the NATO expansion and US meddling. They've been actually very clear about that. If Rob is talking about NAFO, I have to leave. I'm determined to learn nothing about them. Well, Red Scary, what we're doing is we're just looking at the comments of this Cornel West tweet where he talks about NATO. And I was talking about how this should just be like a standard left-wing opinion. And there's nothing radical in any way about this kind of statement. And we're looking at the reaction to it by some of these people. Imagine having this level of propaganda brain rot. I mean, being a unpaid NATO intern to do online information, disinformation stuff is just a truly sad existence. Rubbish. Europeans asked for Americans' presidents to guarantee our security. Exactly. The people in these NATO countries demand, but which people? That's a good question. Which people have been demanding American presence for their security? It's all the fucking relatives of the former Nazis that used to operate there, whether you're talking about Ukraine or any of these other former socialist countries. Europeans asked for our security against the power ambitions of Europe's last empire, then the Soviet Union, now fascist Russia. Okay, that's one. And here we got a whole Russian propaganda cheat sheet. All of the lies being debunked on this. with some expertly sourced debunking of all these talking points. I wonder, this is funny too. This person, Wheaton Simis, says, I wonder how Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and Finland feel about NATO and America's role in it. They probably like it, and the fucking former fascists that used to operate in those places are probably very happy with that, yes. Again, it depends on which people. Because throughout Eastern Europe, we've seen the legacy of socialism be completely spat upon by these like fascists who, they love NATO and they love American interference. That doesn't mean we need to support it, though. State officials from the US, Europe literally admitted all those things are true. Yeah, or like the Minsk agreements. Like, let's look at some of these. The war started in 2014. Here's the first one. This is the Russian propaganda cheat sheet. The war started in 2014 with Ukraine killing Russian separatists. Wrong. Russia didn't like it when the Ukrainian people wanted closer ties with Europe during the Maidan Revolution. Again, which people? That's a good question. I know some people definitely thought that. Was it some uniform thing that all people in the country believed in? Or was it a specific group of people? Well, I don't know. So they sent in Russian troops under the guise of Ukrainian separatists. And again, we've seen these footage of civilians in Luhansk and Donetsk and these breakaway republics. They're not Russian troops. They're not disguised Russians acting as Ukrainian separatists. They're literally like old men and women and civilians and little kids. I know it's very easy for people to just like whitewash this whole thing by being like, oh no, these are Russian proxies, so it's actually good and okay that we've been bombing them this whole time. They're literally just civilians. Local DNR, LNR militia have done most of the fighting since 2014. Yeah, and has Russia been maybe backing that through arms or training or whatever? Probably. But I mean, again, we've talked about this as being a legitimate security concern.
Some leftist based in Canada. I was
Majority Report.
Sick individual.
Majority Report. Thank you very, very much for the raid. Majority Report. I hope the stream was wonderful today. Thank you for joining us. How is it going? I'm Rob. Hello. It's nice to see you. It's nice to meet you. Please smash the follow button. Approaching very ever so slightly, getting closer to reaching the 9K follower benchmark here on twitch.tv. So if you can, folks, please smash the follow button. Smash the follow button completely free of charge. It costs you nothing. It costs you nothing to smash the follow button right now, right at this moment. It might cost you something if you smash it too hard and you break the mouse that you're clicking on or your laptop or your phone screen. So that might cost something. It could lead to a finger sprain. It could possibly lead to a finger sprain. We don't want that. Okay? So just gently caress the follow button. How about that? And that will cost you absolutely nothing. Consider gently caressing the follow button. I'll just catch you up to speed with what we're talking about here, Majority Report. And thanks again for the raid. I appreciate it. We were just looking at this tweet from Cornel West, which has caused a little bit of controversy, and which I'm kind of making the argument really should
You've
not
just
be.
become an elite member
of
the
goodness.
Friendship Triangle.
Plunger Man, my goodness. Thank you very, very much, Plunger Man, for the 5 gifted subs. Hell yeah. We love it. Thanks, Plunger Man. So talking about this tweet by Cornel West, where he talks about the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and he mentions that NATO is an expanding instrument of U.S. global power, which is true, talks about the role that NATO played in provoking Russia into what he describes as a criminal invasion and occupation of Ukraine, which I agree with. NATO did indeed provoke the invasion. He describes it as a proxy war, which it is, talks about the fact that it could possibly lead to World War III, which is very true. He says we must stop the war and war crimes, including cluster bombs used by all parties, which is something that I very much agree with. The cluster bombs that Biden is sending to Ukraine does constitute, by the U.S. government's own admission, constitutes potential war crimes. So I agree with that. He uses the words of W.E.B. Du Bois and Martin Luther King to back up the point that he's making, and kind of my general take on this, which is that this should just be a totally non-controversial standard messaging from anyone that qualifies as being on the left or in the progressive movement or whatever. And I think it shows a lot about how far off the rails we've gone. I think that this kind of a statement by Cornel West is so controversial and has led to all this kind of condemnation. And I was just looking at this, the very cursed comments to this. I was looking at this Russian propaganda cheat sheet just now that someone posted in the replies to this, and we're debunking some of these points that are being made here, talking about the Maidan Revolution, which, as I've talked about, I mean, I feel like some of you may have been here yesterday when we were talking about this at this exact moment, so I don't think I want to relitigate everything here. But my whole point about the Euromaidan Revolution is just that, when you see, as we saw with the Euromaidan, a sort of specific pro-Western, pro-EU, pro-IMF, pro-NATO government being put into place, and when that's staged managed by literal U.S. officials that are showing up to support the protesters, that's a color revolution. And I know that it's kind of controversial. It gets people very confused when they talk about this. That, though, is when you have the U.S. officials obviously directly involved, that's a color revolution. Also very important to me to always remind ourselves is that 2 years after the Euromaidan, there is video footage of John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Amy Klobuchar showing up in Ukraine, eastern Ukraine, hanging out with these militia guys, these Ukrainian militia guys, and saying we'll give you whatever weapons you want. We'll give you whatever weapons you want as long as you go after the Russians, So they're literally saying that. So I think that kind of as all people want to debunk that as being Russian propaganda, or talk about how NATO expansion wasn't a threat, or the Euromaidan was this totally democratic, organic process. I think if you look at the actual footage, you see the U.S. officials involved. We know that the U.S., from its long history of doing these kinds of things, does not get involved in these things to promote peace and stability and democracy. They do it to advance their own economic and military objectives and goals. So when we start going down this path of thinking that they're involved in these things for these altruistic reasons, I think we've kind of gone off the rails a little bit. So that's the Euromaidan. The war started because of NATO. Wrong on multiple counts, it says. Putin himself stated his imperial dreams. It is also our lot to return what is Russia's and strengthen the country. And I've talked about that a little bit before. I don't know if I want to go through line by these. The NATO and the US and the West humiliated Russia between the years of 1991 and around 2003 or so. Was a horrible, brutal time for anyone in Russia when their entire social safety net collapsed. All of the advances in living standards that had been made under socialism were all reversed. It led to a huge spike in human trafficking, despair, suicide, alcoholism. It was absolutely devastating for millions of people. And when Putin talks about restoring Russia's to become this feared and respected global power, that's a very real desire, I think, on the part of people who got destroyed and dominated by Western expanding imperialist powers. And I think that's exactly why Putin is popular, is because people were put in that position where that message then became appealing to them. So it's not really that surprising to me that people respond to Putin when he kind of makes these kinds of statements about restoring Russia's national character. And Ukraine as well, as we know, used to be the top ally of the Soviet Union, the largest republic in the Soviet Union outside of Russia, a central piece in the whole Union of Socialist Republics in the first place, a long history of cooperation and diplomacy between these two places. And yeah, I think the idea of not having that place be now this hotbed of right-wing nationalism, anti-Russian sentiment, NATO military bases, CIA-trained militias, I think regardless of what you think about this conflict, I think that's a genuine security concern that Russia had. I mean, it's amazing. It says Ukraine is committing atrocities and genocide against its Russian-speaking population in the country's east. There's no evidence that Russian-speaking or ethnic Russian residents in eastern Ukraine face persecution. I mean, you have recorded statements by Ukrainian officials that have talked about this, that have like openly acknowledged this, that we want to like bombard these like Russian-speaking Muscovites in the Eastern republics. I mean, they're not shy about talking about this. And it's this whole cheat sheet just is like, no, that's not true. But I mean, this can be verified. You can look at CNN clips from like 2014 when CNN and Western media were covering this and actually speaking to the people in these regions, these Russian-speaking people that live in these Eastern regions, who were very clearly talking about what they were experiencing, being shelled, and the way that the Russian language has been like targeted as well. I mean, it's not even weird controversial to bring this up. It's not anything remotely resembling Russian propaganda to bring that up. That's just something that's been happening. It's NATO and the West's fault. They promised not to enlarge the alliance. So they're focusing on this thing about Mikhail Gorbachev's quote there, saying like, oh, we never promised not to expand. But they also, in that statement, they're acknowledging that NATO has indeed expanded directly up to Russia's border, which has always been an anti-Russian military alliance, not about protecting people from Russia. It's been an offensive anti-Russian alliance that the West has like spent billions of dollars cultivating. So that, again, that's a pretty legitimate thing. Ukraine has deliberately violated the Minsk agreements. And they say, no, that's not true. I mean, we have Angela Merkel on record saying like, no, we never intended to follow through on any of those. The entire process of the Minsk agreements were a way for us to bide time while we continue to arm Ukrainian militias. The Ukrainian government, full of Nazis and drug abusers, this ridiculous statement doesn't even need an explanation. I think it kind of does. Russia's the one trying to eradicate the Ukrainian nation. That's what it says. And listen, when we've talked about fascists and neo-Nazis in Ukraine, I know people have tried to really downplay this. They say all kinds of things. There's neo-Nazis in all kinds of militaries. There's neo-Nazis in the Canadian military, in the American military, in the Russian military. And first of all, I don't think that's good to have neo-Nazis in your military. I don't care, like the whole thing about neo-Nazis being part of the Russian military or the Wagner group or whatever. Well, we're not arming and financing and funding those neo-Nazis, so that's not really any concern of mine. I'm concerned about the neo-Nazis that we're arming and funding and training. But as we've talked about before, every time we talk about this conflict, we're not just talking about a couple of yahoos in the Ukrainian military establishment or these militia guys, the Azov guys or the right sector guys, of which there are numerous. I mean, that is an acknowledged problem. Tons of Western reporting has been done about this to back this up. But we're talking about a project, a political project that goes all the way to the very top. And even people that might not openly express these kinds of like neo-Nazi or fascist sympathies, what are we seeing in Ukraine, especially since the outbreak of this invasion? But really, this has been this ongoing process
based in Canada. I was turned on to this sick individual, and I found this
process of totally erasing this legacy, this socialist legacy of Ukraine, and the brave Ukrainian heroes that fought against fascism during World War II and joined the Red Army, of which there were millions. And that legacy has been completely erased, or it's in the process of being erased. And instead, they're replacing that beautiful, glorious legacy, which we should support and remember, and who every single person owes a fucking debt of gratitude to the people in Ukraine and elsewhere that joined the Red Army and fought against fascism in World War II. But that legacy is being completely dismantled and erased, and it's being replaced by the upholding of these like Banderite, Nazi sympathizing people, part anti-Soviet freedom fighters who helped carry out the Holocaust, like Stepan Bandera. And that's why every time you see a conversation with one of these like Ukrainian militia guys or local politicians, they've all got the Bandera pictures, they've all got the fucking UPA flag. And that's we're not just talking about a couple guys in a militia. We're talking about a fascist project to restore and whitewash the fascist legacy of these Ukrainian nationalists and dismantle the Soviet legacy, which is the correct viewpoint that people should have had. And yeah, that is, so if you want to describe it as full of neo-Nazis, then yeah, I think the people that are perpetrating that project, that does describe them pretty accurately. And then we got Keith Olbermann, who just responds, "Fuck off." It's funny because we were watching Newsroom Jeff the other day. Newsroom Jeff is, I think, partially based on Olbermann. Fuck off, he says. And it's like, Keith Olbermann is someone I used to have respect for, honestly. Keith Olbermann, to his credit, I'll start off by saying, to Keith Olbermann's credit, he, at one point was known as just being like a sports blowhard, but during the height of the Iraq War, before the tide had turned against that in terms of public position, at a time when it was like genuinely dangerous in terms of your career prospects to do, Keith Olbermann, to his credit again, spoke out, used his platform to speak out against George Bush and Iraq, and actually used his platform to promote a really important message that not enough people at that time were saying, and I give Olbermann credit for that. And for a couple of years was using his platform to advance a kind of progressive agenda. And that's the sad thing about that now, is that he mostly just wanted to throw his papers at the camera. Well, maybe that's it too. But yeah, and that's what he's been reduced to. Now just the idea of, first of all, it's fucking racist, first of all, to have this, you have a prominent black advocate of social injustice, of social justice and racial justice and anti-imperialism, speaking out against this conflict, acknowledging NATO's obvious apparent role in this conflict. And Keith Olbermann, of course, has no interest in that. No interest in that, because this goes against the wishes of his precious Democratic Party. And now that it's all the liberals in charge of this great war machine and not the conservatives that he finds distasteful, he thinks any dissent from that should just be completely shut down. And this is what he says. He says he's undone his entire career by getting manipulated into helping Trump. That's it. So you just can't speak out against the Democratic Party in any way. You can't speak out. As Keith Olbermann once did, spoke truth to power and called out the people in power. And now it's once it's the Democratic Party that are in charge of these decisions, once you speak out against them, if you've spent your entire life, like Cornel West has, speaking out against war and racism and these really important things and calling out the role that liberals and the Democratic Party have played in perpetuating these things, Keith just finds that distasteful because now you're helping the other side. And Keith, who once spoke truth to power, we can question what his motives were about why he was doing this, whether it was self-centered or whatever. But Keith Olbermann, who refuses to just criticize Joe Biden, who refuses to just criticize what the Democrats have done. And again, as I've said many times, if Joe Biden loses to Donald Trump or whatever other vile reactionary that ends up running on the Republican ticket, I mean, right now Trump is still just absolutely dominating in the polls. If Biden loses to that person, it's going to be the fault of one person, Joe Biden. It's not going to be because of Cornel West. It's not going to be because of whatever, RFK Jr. It's not going to be because of the Bernie bros. It's not going to be anyone's fault but Joe Biden and his advisors and the people in the Democratic Party that have taken this historic opportunity that they had to maybe use the big crisis that was unfolding when they took power to maybe improve people's lives a little bit. They've completely failed in every respect. Things have gotten worse under Biden and not better. They're talking about how great the economy is, but regular people are not seeing the effects of that. The entire social safety net that was kind of put into place under COVID has been rolled back under Biden. Biden campaigned on student debt relief, got young people to vote for the Democratic Party on the with the understanding that he was going to fight for their student debt relief, unveiled this very like democratic centrist, triangulated, means-tested debt relief plan, which has been rejected by the courts. And now they're going to say, like, well, vote for the Democrats in 2024 for student debt relief. Like, this, it's a fucking joke. Like, it's just so obviously they had the fishing line out and they're just, like, trying to hook people in. Obviously. Or young people who care so much about the climate and climate change. And Biden talks about his, like, the transformative climate agenda. And we can talk about a few mild things that are in there that are, like, you could talk about being sort of okay. Meanwhile, he's opening up these national parks to new drilling. He's not doing anything remotely radical or taking any big steps in any way to address this, what he acknowledges himself as a very serious crisis that's threatening the future, the literal futures of the young people that they're demanding vote for the Democratic Party. Does Keith Olbermann have an issue with that? You know, Joe Biden, who has been pumping arms into Ukraine to perpetuate this fucking meat grinder, which has been devastating for Ukrainian people. The last year and a half of this nonstop escalation, which Joe Biden has co-signed and has turned on the money printing machine in the U.S. government to finance.
Good old Rob to talk you through all
now
this.
Sending cluster munitions to Ukraine, which predominantly maim and kill non-combatants and fucking kids. You know? If Joe Biden loses, it's going to be because of these things. It's not because of Cornel West or whoever else, me or whoever else, talking about these failures. You know, if Biden loses, that is why it's going to happen. Who started the meat grinder? NATO started the meat grinder by continuing to provoke Russia over and over and over and over again until the conflict started. That's who started the meat grinder. And you know what? Russia deserves blame too. I agree. I'm a little bit more sympathetic to Russia's security concerns than a lot of people are. I'm anti-war, okay? I know horrible things happening in war, you know? And I wish that it wasn't happening. And I wish that diplomacy had been acted on a lot sooner than it has been. I wish the war had never started. And there was many opportunities to stop it before it did start. And NATO and the West completely ignored every single one of those moments and blew past every single one of those red lines until the proxy war that they wanted really kicked off. So yeah, that's who started the meat grinder. When the American government helped instigate a color revolution in Ukraine that put in a pro-EU, pro-Western, pro-American, pro-NATO government, and then immediately started arming and funding neo-Nazi militias in eastern Ukraine, that's what started the meat grinder. Okay, and Russia deserves part of the blame too, of course, but it's not this one-sided, unprovoked war of conquest or imperialism as people frame it as. That's just not what it is. And I think any analysis of it that looks at it like that is childish. And anyway, that's the thing with Olbermann, right? Someone who actually did speak truth to power at one point in his career, and now is just completely paralyzed in doing that. There's many reasons that Biden might lose to Donald Trump. It's not because of Cornel West talking about this stuff. It's mind-boggling when brown countries get invaded, nobody bats an eye. I mean, it's like, it's absolutely absurd that anyone has taken any American official, what they've said seriously about any of this stuff over the last couple of years, given their history, given their recent history. And I've tied it in before when you talk about Ukraine. I mean, it's not like this isolated incident, but there's a history, a very recent history of Western imperialist powers and NATO arming and funding extremist militias in order to destabilize and overthrow regimes they don't like. It's not that we're just making this shit up. They did this in Libya to the absolute devastation of the people of Libya when they helped kick off the Libyan civil war, armed and funded the extremists there, overthrew Gaddafi, and now Libya is still, to this day, a failed state, absolute human rights disaster. They tried to do the same thing in Syria, arming and funding these like rebranded Al-Qaeda guys to destabilize and overthrow the Assad regime, and now they're trying to do the same thing in Ukraine. I mean, it's not complicated. They do this. It's the same strategy over and over and over again. So that's why I don't think that it's radical in any way. It's certainly not Russian propaganda to just point out this fucking pattern. You know, this is just recent history. This is just the last like 10 years or a little more. You know? That's why it's bizarre to me that this has become controversial in any way. It's not an isolated incident. We've seen them engage in this exact behavior time and time and time again. I wanted to get to another comment too. I saw another comment that I wanted to mention. Let me just see here. I'm scrolling. I saw it before. Oh, this is in the Keith's mentions. Okay, that's why I'm not seeing it. I wanted to get to this comment as well, which says, no one has promoted NATO expansion more in my lifetime than Putin. Never thought I'd live to see Sweden trying to join. And like, here's one thing that like, maybe early on in the conflict, I was kind of maybe sympathetic to this viewpoint. That like, well, you know, you can talk about all these reasons for why the invasion happened, but like, it seems like they've only strengthened NATO. They've only strengthened these Eastern, these militias, these white supremacist militias that they claim to be going against. But I'm not so sure, because really what I think has happened is that the NATO powers have been exposed for being kind of a paper tiger. And I think a message has been sent to any nation that's kind of like trying to flirt with this, you know, what might happen to them if they go along with the plans of what NATO has. And also when it comes to like Sweden, that's the thing, is that Russia's been very clear about Ukraine being a specific red line for them. Like that was their position all along. That's our red line because of this long history, this shared legacy, all these things we're talking about. They never talked about Sweden being a red line. Like, what is Russia really threatened by Sweden? I don't really think so. Like, really what they care about is their former greatest allies becoming these like NATO outposts, which Sweden is not. Yeah, it was already like a de facto part of NATO. And by the way, thank you very much to Dan Simpson for a few minutes ago. I was on a bit of a rant there and I didn't say thank you. Thank you, Dan Simpson, for the raid. I hope the Dan Simpson stream was good today. No one thinks about Sweden yet. We don't care. We don't care. That's my reaction. When I think about Sweden joining NATO and whether that like makes NATO like more powerful or not, my reaction is this.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you,
we don't care.
I don't think anyone really cares about Sweden being in NATO, but I do think they care about Ukraine being this like Western outpost. And yeah, I do think that like that's one thing that has happened, is that for all NATO has talked about, like NATO was saying to Ukraine prior to this invasion kicking off, yeah, keep pushing, don't worry. If the conflict ever breaks out, we're going to have your back. No, you can't be a member. You're not an official member, but you're like unofficially in the club. So if we keep pushing and pushing and pushing and Russia does invade, we're going to give you so many weapons. We're going to make sure you can take care of yourself. It's going to be no problem. And Russia has exposed the fact that there's nothing really NATO can do. Like, look what's going on right now. They're selling cluster bombs to Ukraine precisely because they don't have any more actual conventional weapons to send them. And all of the weapons that they've sent, the billions and billions and billions of dollars of weapons that they have sent to Ukraine in order to perpetuate the last 2 years of this conflict, haven't actually accomplished anything. Russia has still carved off those eastern regions. And with this whole like counteroffensive that's going on, like hasn't made any impact into that. So I don't really buy this line that this has like strengthened NATO. I think it's exposed the fact that NATO can't actually protect places like Ukraine. Yeah, NATO trained an army in Ukraine for 8 years, and again, the whole Minsk agreements was like a whole stalling technique to bide time for that. And the entire army died within the year. Yeah, I mean, and now nothing. This kind of like this sort of makeshift NATO army that they've got, NATO proxy army, where they're just like grabbing poor people and training them for a couple of days and throwing a rifle in their hand and then throwing them to the fucking trenches, like, has not actually made an impact. Yeah, strengthen NATO by enriching their bourgeoisie's bottom line. I mean, maybe you could make that argument. Yeah. That's what I mean. So I don't really buy that. That it has. I think it's exposed that there's not a whole lot NATO can do to these places to protect them when the chips are on the table. The whole thing with the sanctions as well. It's exposed. That's another thing we were wondering about. Like at the beginning of this conflict, haven't they just like given the imperialists everything they always wanted? Like these are legitimate questions, and I was certainly having these questions as well. And sometimes I can be swayed by this kind of thing also. But like, yeah, I think that's the important question. That's a good point as well, Matt. You like the way that Western Europe has totally sacrificed their own economic security to support this. Also, but the sanctions regime, that's what I kind of wanted to talk about. You know, when it was the biggest sanctions regime we'd ever seen being put into place at the initial outbreak of this conflict. And it was exposed that, like, at this point, it doesn't seem like these Western powers have the ability to manipulate other people's currency to the extent that they maybe thought that they did. Like, the sanctions haven't really affected Russia in any way. Now that there's this kind of like anti-Western alliance that has come together, they're able to, like, through these kind of alternative economic institutions, get around these kind of Western sanctions. That's the whole purpose of institutions like BRICS that are being created. So that's the other thing. I think it's exposed the fact, that NATO can't actually really protect these places, even though they're promising to, and that they don't have the economic clout to the same extent that they thought they did to use sanctions as a weapon to get countries like Russia into line. Like, this has failed. Both of these strategies have failed. So I don't really buy this line that they've helped NATO.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
It turns out your energy supply is important to manufacturing and security. It does seem like that. And thank you very much, Fart Party 69, for the gifted sub. Sanctions have definitely affected Russian people, just not their oligarchs. Well, yeah, as sanctions always do. And I think from Russia's perspective as well, they've been able to explain to people that have been affected by it that it's not because of the Russian government that it's affecting you. It's because of the West, and it's just galvanized more support, more of this anti-Western movement, and it's galvanized support for them because they point, if people's regular lives are being affected by these sanctions, they just point to the West, and they're correct to do so. And I guess before we sign off here, I think there's one more thing I wanted to talk about. There's one thing that I've been saying. We just touched on it a moment ago, talking about like energy security and the ways that like these places like Germany is the top example, you know, who had a deal to get cheap Russian gas from Russia and were part of the Nord Stream pipeline, of course, which the U.S. sabotaged, or sorry, the rogue sect of Ukrainians, sorry, excuse me, that sabotaged the Nord Stream pipeline, even though the CIA was saying, no, please don't sabotage it. We don't want you to do that. Please stop. And they just couldn't. These people that they've armed and funded and trained use that arms and funding and training to sabotage the pipeline. Lo and behold, what do you know? What do you know? Of course they admitted to the bridge. Yeah, and the pipeline is next. And it's because we're not fucking morons, we instantly knew exactly what was going on because we have memories that go beyond like the previous 6 months. But anyway, Germany is the best example. They've sacrificed their economic security and their energy security in order to back this. And what's one thing that I've been saying? This is one thing that I feel like I don't think you have to be fucking brilliant to understand this, but this is one thing that I've repeatedly said, which is that the way that these countries have sacrificed their economic and their energy security to back the West and back NATO is only going to really strengthen these far-right movements in Germany, and I believe in France as well, who are going to be able to use the very real economic devastation that people are experiencing, working class people paying significantly higher prices for American fracked gas rather than cheap Russian gas. And they're going to use the example that their ruling class has led them down this path of supporting NATO and destroying their own economic interests. And it's going to just be a huge gift to the far right, who are going to be able to organize around this issue. And lo and behold, this is exactly what has happened in Germany. The far-right AfD now polling higher than both ruling parties, Greens and the SDP. What a wonderful war this has been for Europe's budding Nazis. So you see the German far-right now starting to completely grow. And yeah, where have we seen that before in history? Where have we seen that before? That should be a little bit alarming. Yeah, and they'll just blame Russia for all these Nazis rising up. Yeah, it's a good question. It's good that Germany is juicing up its military as AfD rises. When did we see something like this before? It's never happened before in history. Here's the last thing that we should look at. And then I'm going to have to say goodbye for today. But I thought this was just fucking great. This is just fantastic. This is how you know this conflict is going really, really well. I know these people have convinced themselves that like Russia's going to be kicked out any day now and the counteroffensive is going to be successful. But this is one of these fantastic moments of U.S. officials saying the truth by accident, which we do. It's one of my favorite genres of clips to look at, of U.S. officials accidentally saying the truth. And this is probably the best ever example of this. Our free press correcting them, absolutely.
A few things. So I will say, with respect to your first question, we believe the war has been a strategic failure for Ukraine. The Secretary spoke to this in a speech he gave in Helsinki last month, I believe it was. What's that? I'm sorry, a strategic failure for Ukraine. Thank you for the correction. Which is,
Oh boy. Yeah, the journalist correcting the propaganda. Don't you mean Russia, sir? No, it's going very well. Yeah, no, everything's going very well. Like I don't know how you can continue to sell this idea that it's been a strategic failure. And I agree that it's been a disaster. I don't know, when you talk about the fact that they've been able to completely weather the storm and not be overcome by this NATO army with unlimited weapons and training from NATO, and the fact that they've managed to keep and actually strengthen in many ways their economic security despite all the sanctions. I don't know how you could really cast it as some kind of strategic failure at this point. And again, as I was saying before, I don't buy this argument that it's strengthened NATO. I think it's exposed NATO as being unable to actually protect any of these places. It's almost like the U.S. strategy of throwing money at these occupations doesn't work. And listen, just if none of these arguments have convinced anyone, I would just ask you to take a look at the NAFO summit. The NAFO summit that we just saw, which is I wanted to carve out time to look at today, but I don't think I have time for. But like, I know people have tried to have this kind of left-wing, progressive, or anarchist spin on supporting NATO in this cause and supporting this proxy war. But to me, it's like you just said, like this is who you're on the same side of, you know? When you're trying to take this progressive stance about this, you're on the side of these absolute fucking clowns and fascists, like the open fascists. NAFO was founded by like an anti-Semitic gamer. And this is who your allies are if you're trying to take one of these nuanced stances about these. Like, Russia did not topple the Ukrainian government, so they did fail at that stated goal, but they succeeded so far at their other objectives. And I'm not totally sure that was ever their objective. Like, did they ever really say that? It, like, didn't, and correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I'm not saying I'm correct about this. Didn't Putin at the very outset of this be like, we don't have any interest in toppling the Kiev government? Didn't he say that explicitly? Like, I think that was what we said that they wanted, but I don't think they were ever really explicit about that at all. And again, I'm open to being corrected about that. Like they did bomb Kiev, not to the same extent that like the US bombed Baghdad in the shock and awe campaign or anything like that, anywhere near the same extent. They did like invade the entirety of the country and were heading towards Kiev. But I think in my understanding, that was more of just a way to like, it was kind of a feint, right? To just not just focus entirely on these eastern regions and to draw people away from these eastern regions where the conflict was what was really about. And kind of feint people into thinking that perhaps they were going after Kiev, but I'm not sure that they had any interest in that. Again, I'm open to being corrected if I'm not correct about that. Ukrainian kids will be paying off that odious debt for generations. I mean, that's the most grotesque thing, right? And that's the thing that will always push back on whenever people yell at me about this and say you don't care about sovereignty or democracy or anything like that. Like the idea that Ukraine was previously or is going to be after this conflict a sovereign democratic place is just nonsense. And it's childish to believe that. You know? The way that this process of privatization has continued, the social safety net being dismantled, the whole country being sold off for parts, like just prepping it for full like neoliberalized shock therapy. That's not a sovereign place. That's a Western outpost. You know, that's a Western colony to exploit for cheap labor and some natural resources, which are mostly located in the East, which is why I think they care about these regions so much. Yeah, it's becoming like a Western NATO vassal state. That's not going to be a sovereign democratic country. And anyone that thinks that or pretends to that's what's at stake here, or that's what they're supporting by supporting NATO, you gotta grow up, you know? That's not why the West gets involved in these kinds of conflicts, to protect sovereignty and democracy and freedom. Like that's childish shit. That's childish stuff to believe. And when we're adults, we have to move past these childish notions. And we should have better sense, I think, an understanding of history to know that when NATO gets involved in these kinds of conflict, that's not why it happens. And it never had a strong democracy. Agreed. The idea that it was somehow like it's not been democratic whatsoever since the fall of the Soviet Union. It's been incredibly corrupt and poor since that time. It wasn't sovereign or democratic since the collapse of the Soviet Union. It wasn't sovereign and democratic under the Yanukovych government. It certainly wasn't sovereign and democratic when Western interests helped overthrow that government, and it's not sovereign and democratic now, and it's not going to be sovereign and democratic after this conflict is over. We got to grow up. I think we got to grow up when we talk about these things and let go of some of these childish fairy tale notions that we have about Western power and what its goals are. Folks, What another wonderful day of discussion. I'm energized. I'm jazzed up from all this wonderful discourse and discussion. Thank you everyone for tuning into the show today. We are three small subs away from the sub goal, folks. Is there a brave hero or three that will step to the plate and make the little number go up and to become the good number? First time watching your stream, I enjoyed. Very happy to hear that. I've been getting the raid from Majority Report lately, and I know that they have a different stance on these kinds of things, but which I respect and really admire a lot of the people that are part of that crew. But
you can count on me.
This is the kind of stuff we talk about on here.
To talk you through all this.
And so, if you are new to the community, if it's your first time watching, if you can't subscribe or support the stream like that, please, if you can, hit the follow button. Okay, hit the follow button. Join the Discord server. A lot of really great discussion there. I talked a lot about the movie nights we've been doing in there, which have been fantastic. Please join the Discord server and get involved there if you can't subscribe to the program.
Use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
I got your little number right here, Vatnik.
Hey, they got your freaking little number right here. Oh, thank you, Matt, for the 200 friend coin. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you to Seer Phobos for the 7 months of Prime. And thank you as well to 2023, more like 1984 for the gifted sub. Very kind of you for that. I like Sam because he's honest and consistent, even though I have many disagreements. I agree. Honestly, I love Sam. I really like Emma as well, who I've spoken to many times. Matt Leck, who I think is a really cool guy. I think he's the one that's actually rating this channel a lot of the time. Really like a lot of these, this whole crew. Michael Brooks, of course, was a hugely influential person for me to get me talking about this stuff in the first place. And in fact, I would encourage people that watch Majority Report to go back and look at Michael Brooks' comments from around 2014 when this Crimean annexation was going on. I think it's really interesting. We looked at it the other day, what Michael was talking about in that stream 10 whole years ago, which now I think is really like radical and crazy and Putin propaganda, the kind of things that he was saying. So yeah, really respect, admire, and enjoy the Majority Report crew, although I must continue to admit that on this particular subject of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, I do continue to have some strong disagreements with the stances that they've been taking
you can count
over
on
there.
Me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And look at that. Dummy Dorco, thank you for gifting a sub to Pookie Jack City. Thank you for that. I really, really appreciate that. That's absolutely wonderful. We got to the sub goal again. I fucking love it. Thank you. Thank you to everyone for supporting this channel and supporting this community. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now it's time to say goodbye, if I can ever find the fucking thing to type in. You're on a roll. I'm feeling good lately, Dakadoon. I don't know. I'm feeling energized the last couple days. My energy must be infectious. It's infectious to the community. I've been really coming through with high levels of support over the last couple of days. All those prime drinks, that's right. I haven't played this one for a while. Goodbye song. Thanks again, folks. Thank you again, friends, for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow. Same time as always. 12 p.m. Eastern. That is 1 a.m. Pyongyang time.
We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Thank you, Pookie Jack City, for the 100 friend coin. Thank you for that. Happy to have you in the community. I hope you come back. I gotta go pick up my kid from camp now. Thanks again. I've ran out of things to say. I have no more to say. Goodbye. See you tomorrow or in the Discord server.